What's all the Omnifuss about then?
Hello and welcome to What's All the Omnibus About then? Issue 5 or Edition 5, Stream 5, whatever you want to call it. What else would you rather be doing on a Friday night? Even though it's payday for a lot of people, we're here, we're live on YouTube, joining in the fun. We're here to discuss pickups, reads, what's coming out, all that fun stuff, everything related to Omnibus, Collected Edition, Deluxe covers, all the stuff that brings us so much joy. If you watch the show every month, you'd know I like to kind of switch around the panel. We've had different people every month so far. And again, this month we have got similar people from before, but just in a different order. So we've got Martin from Sonikz Comics.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got Highland G.
Hey, guys.
And as per usual, all their links are in the description below, as are all the links for everyone who's appeared on the show so far. And anyone new that comes in will be added there as well going forward. So let's just first of all, before we get stuck into the chat, Chris is here early. He was 20 minutes early. He says, "I'm ready. Entertain me." I hope he's still there and hasn't fallen asleep in the 20 minutes waiting for us to go live. Which is a shame too, because just before we went live, we were talking about your favorite subject, Usagi Yojimbo. These guys weren't liking it too much, so but I got its back. Don't worry. No, it's all praise, all good praise. And then Scott is here saying, "Hey." And Scott's done something for me for this stream, and I'll show you in good time exactly what that is. Very, very thankful and appreciative of what he done. So guys, how are you? You all keeping well?
Yeah, doing well. Pleased it's the weekend.
Oh, yeah. G?
I'm generally okay. I hurt my shoulder a bit a few weeks ago, so it's a bit off. Can't really do much of my right arm, so I'm not actually making videos right now. My last video go out was my big kind of haul, and I had to do that pretty much all with my left arm, and I just kind of went, nah, I can't until it heals up a bit. So I can get by day to day kind of stuff, but I'm literally doing everything left-handed, so that's fun.
Everything. Anyway, I do see Highland G is rocking our Nerd Herd merch, and Scott is obviously watching, and Martin has a gripe with you. Didn't you say that, Martin? You had issues with it?
The custom merch. What's going on?
So yeah, if anyone who's watching our streams and watching the community and stuff on Instagram, you'll see some folk have our hoodies and t-shirts, but that is the first Sip Up hoodie that I've seen. So well done. And me being like one of the founders, I haven't got my merch yet. I really should.
Oh. He'll be there. He'll come back in a second.
But yeah, Scott done this hoodie for me. It's really cool. As I tried to get as close to my kind of channel's colors as possible. So I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of a kind of maroony red type thing, and it's got the
nice.
The nerd herd on the back as well.
I do like the zip. It's a nice touch.
But yes, you guys were all saying it was really, really hot in the hoodies and the various videos you guys were doing. So I was like, I want to get on with a zip. That way, if it gets too hot, I don't have to like pull it off over my head midstream or something.
Well, I might hit Scott for another blue hoodie with the zip. Customize it. Well, it looks like Phil's having a few issues at the moment.
Yeah, we've lost him.
We've lost him now.
So let's just do what we want with his stream.
I'm back.
Easier.
Guys, you could have just run this with yourself without me. I might have to. I was saying to Martin before the stream, actually, this happened while we were backstage, that I'll not name the provider, but I've recently given them my 30 days notice. And funny enough, ever since then, my internet has been absolute balls. So I do think they're playing funny buggers with my internet just because I'm leaving. But come the 7th of March, I will be up and running with super fast Infinity, whatever it's called. So it should be all good. So sorry if I do happen to go, this happens through the stream. Martin already knows he could take on board and carry on, and I'll just pop out and pop back in again.
We'll roll with the punches.
Yeah. But for all three people in the chat, let's keep them entertained, as Chris has asked. Now, usually every stream, we always leave like what's coming out at the end, and I always feel like we have to shoehorn that in because we talk so much about the books we've read and we've bought and so on. We're going to do this slightly differently, and we're going to go first of what's coming out. And I have asked the guys to pick their top pick, and then we will go through as well what the other books out that out the rest of this month. Just bear with me here. I fully had a little banner coming out in March. Let's see what we have. And I mentioned Scott had done something for this show, for something very special, which I'm really happy about, delighted about. And this is it. So just bear with. He's done us a little presentation. How does this look? This is quality, isn't it?
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only problem is I've taken my second screen off, so I can have one screen. So this is full screen for me. So I can't see you guys. I can't see how good I look at myself on the little corner at the bottom. So just bear with. So I've asked the guys here join me tonight to have their top pick, and they give it their top pick. See, Highland G. Watch this. Ooh. He's one for Sonic the Hedgehog, IDW Collection Volume 3. Martin is one for Savage Avengers. And I have picked Spider-Man versus Venom. So we'll start with Highland G. Do you want to kind of give us a brief kind of overview of this pick, and then we'll move on to Martin?
Yeah, basically, I've really enjoyed the IDW Turtles collections, and as opposed to a lot of other collected editions where things are left out because maybe it's a certain run or it's a certain writer or something like that. With the IDW collections, they put everything in chronological order. So if there's any little spin-off runs or little one-shots, it's always included in things. And I say I enjoyed the Turtles run that much that when I stopped that book, I think it's like 12 or 13, and that kind of writers stopped their kind of run, I wanted to take on something else, and I picked up the IDW Turtle ones, the IDW Sonic ones. So this is the second one, and I've got the Sonic one, which is book 1. It's a little bit more on the sort of family-friendly side, so where the Turtles is very much a nostalgic thing, and most of us are in our sort of 30s now, so it's a little bit darker, a little bit more kind of steeped in history and stuff like that. This doesn't really have that. This reads more like a Saturday morning cartoon, but it's really good fun, and there's a lot of lore that kind of builds slowly over time. They add a character in, maybe one character or two characters in a hardcover that maybe I didn't know that well, so they're not like throwing them at you crazy. And it's just something I've really, really enjoyed, being able to get into the Sonic universe, because it's not something I've read before. So I plan to continue just reading these as they kind of come out, and I'll be covering them on my channel as I get them as well. So yeah, just something to look forward to.
That says the annual for 2020. Is that how far back they are in collecting these in hardcover? Is there trade paperbacks in between, like the single issues and this?
Yeah, so I believe they're roughly up to about issue 70 or something in the main run in like trades. And they're still bringing them out in trades as and when, if you want to buy the main run in trades, and then, as I said, like any of the offshoot one shots or annuals or things like that separately yourself, which might not be included in the trades. But the great thing with the IW collections as opposed to the trades is that they collect everything, so they might take a little bit longer to come out, but you don't miss anything.
Yeah, I take it because with the TMNT stuff, like we talk about how good the spines are with the kind of katana strap or whatever around it. I take it, obviously, the spine of this is that their kind of grid, what's that called, the flag, whatever, for...
So you can't really see it on the spine. The spine's just like the Sonic the Hedgehog logo with like a ring in the... See if we can get a bit on the camera. It's like a ring at the top for the number.
Mm-hmm.
And then the edge of all of them has the kind of checkered flag IDW collection.
Yeah, nice.
So like they all kind of match up the same, kind of that way. There's an ever so slight difference, I think, between 1 and 2 in the spine. I think they're lined up the IDW logo or something slightly different, but it's pretty close.
I think it's the white background on the actual logo.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. It's like a thicker surround on the overall
connects on the actual Sonic and the Hedgehog
together.
together.
I say nothing Like it's not like the Turtles book one of the black and white ones where you've got like red on one and white on the rest or anything like that. It's, you know, it's a subtle change, and most people didn't think the third book was going to come out. When I was covering the first couple of books for my channel, people were like, "Is this an ongoing thing?" And IW have been really quiet about it. But as far as I can tell, going forward, it's going to be at least one a year, and they'll just kind of roll them out like they did the Turtles ones.
Yeah, well, the TMNT stuff, they're still pretty big sellers. I don't imagine this would be. I don't know why. I just have that idea in my mind that Sonic wouldn't be that big of an IP as the Turtles would be. Maybe that's why I think that, you know, they've released the first two. Maybe they thought the sales weren't as good. Should they continue doing it? But like, I think we're all in agreement too that IDW, they produce some really good hardcovers. Their stuff's
the thing with Sonic though is you forget there's like a huge Asian audience on that side of it with the animated shows and other things that kind of came out around Sonic. So like never underestimate that kind of manga audience. Like they're the bigger crowd.
Yeah, there was a anime came out. Was it Netflix? Was it like last year, year before?
Sonic Prime.
What's it called? Sorry.
Sonic Prime.
And it's
really
good.
Yeah, really good. They've only given us half a season so far, but I will be going back for more.
And then they're on a second movie as well.
Oh yes. Folks, like you would imagine that this would be Martin's pick. And I said that the guys, I messaged them both separately and said, listen, if you pick one top pick for the month of March, what's coming out? It's first come, first serve. So if you name the same book, it's whoever's first says it. And Highland G was straight in there with Sonic. I thought something's not right with that. That should be Martin's pick. But
I was like, I'm going to say this, even though I think Martin's probably going to say it anyway.
Yeah, but
it's on my hit list. That's not.
But have you read them yet, or have you just got them?
No, I've got them. I haven't dived into them yet. I just feel like I've got so much other things I want to read. So it's just.
It is a lighter read, and I think it is a bit of a quicker read. Kind of like I say with a lot of the sort of the early Usagi stuff, not maybe the later Usagi stuff because it gets a little bit deeper in some of the stories, but like the early Usagi stuff, there's a lot of like kind of quick palate cleanser type stories where like it's not that they're bad stories by any means, but you're not going to be spending days going into the depth of what the story means. You just read it and kind of enjoy.
And that's what I wanted really, because I think I always thought this would be a palate cleanser. So I think when I get a little bit tired of the more serious reads, I might drop back into something like this.
I think the way you describe it, Jay, like it's like Saturday morning cartoons almost. It's just seems a bit more relaxing.
I love that kind of stuff. There was a Turtles run that came out recently. It was four issues as a sort of short run, but it's technically 4 one-shots because they just kind of start with an issue that Turtles have to have. Usually Splinter ends up out of the situation. The Turtles resolve whatever the problem is, and at the end, they're telling Splinter that they've resolved it, and he's like, "All right, cool, that's fine." And like it's like the end of an episode of like a TV show, and one of them was like they created a VR system, and they go into it, and the VR system goes against them, and then they have to figure out a way to get out of it. So like you're going through the issue, and they're just playing mini games basically, but the Turtles are in them, and then they resolve it, and it gets to the end of the issue. And like I just thought it was great, a little short, one and done kind of things. I don't have to read 20 issues to get into.
Yeah, it's not something that's on my radar, but I am glad they're producing, and I hope they follow through with. There'd be nothing worse than the collector. Like if they did stop at a certain point, go, well, this isn't making us enough money. They say there's 70 odd issues. Can you imagine if they stopped early and they thought, no, we'll just do trade paperbacks and that's it?
I think they're invested because they do release the trades first, and then they bundle them together. Because that's how I knew about this series. I picked up the first 2 trades, thinking that that's all right. This will never get a hardcover. I'll go for the trades. And as soon as I picked them up, the first hardcover was announced. So the first thing I did was return those trades and pre-order the hardcover.
Well, they were very good as well. IDW, was it Transformers? That's theirs, isn't it? That was their run. So, and they brought all them out, and obviously the Turtles as well. So hopefully they stick to it. But folks, I know
the
there's
artist. Just quickly, one of the artists that does some of the stuff on the Sonic stuff is the artist that did I forget what it was, the puppy story thing recently, the horror one that everybody liked.
Oh,
Stray Dogs.
Stray Dogs.
Stray Dogs. Yeah. So they're working on the Sonic run.
That's their Stray Dogs is number 1 on the Nerd Herd leaderboard currently. So yeah. Folks, I know there's some comments in the chat. The problem is I'm not very good technologically. Is the right word? So I only have one screen, and this PowerPoint is full screen, so I can't see the comments currently. I know they're there because it's on my phone beside me. So yes, Scott, it is working. Hello, Fuzzy, and hello, ALB0811. But we'll get to the comments once this is off the full screen. So bear with me. Martin, you didn't pick Sonic because you picked this.
No, I went for something a little bit different than I usually go for. This book jumps out at me for a couple of reasons. As you can see, it's a Marvel team up, and it's a bit of a weird Marvel team up as well. You know, Savage Avengers, as you see, we've got Venom, Conan, the Punisher, Elektra, Wolverine, and Dr. Voodoo. So it seems like I haven't read any of this personally. I've had a little look at what it's about. It seems as if Conan seems to come into modern day during the Savage Land, and they're sort of the wizards from his sort of time is giving spells and stuff to the hand. So it's a bit of a mash-up story. So I say the cast fit's what interested me more. But one of the big things that drew me to picking this, because Marvel have recently lost the license to Conan, the odds of this getting reprinted are slim to none.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring this to people's attention, because if it's something that does interest you, I would nab it while it's available, because when it goes, it might be gone for forever. Yeah,
I would echo that. I don't have it in pre-order. It's something that it's not the biggest omnibus, so it's not. You're not touching like £80-90 for this. You can get it fairly cheap. I'm hoping for a good books, etc., or speedy handling to arrive, probably after a release date. And if it's that would tempt me to buy it. I have read the first few issues of this. I collected it in single issues. Now, I didn't drop it because it was poor. I just dropped it because I had that many stuff on my pull list. Something had to go, and I'm a big Venom fan, so that's why I got this. But it's very, very different than Avengers. Like, it's obviously called the Savage Avengers. It is pretty savage, and like, there was an opening scene was pretty bloody, but in a good way, like, you know, like a sacrificial kind of way. It was interesting. So yeah, I think you would have a good time reading this. But I agree, like, with Conan no longer being part of Marvel, this probably will never get a second reprint. This will be it, I think. So I can imagine if you don't get it now, you'll never get it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I've looked into the series a bit just on online. This does cover the whole first volume. There was only 28 issues in this run, including issue 0. So this is the whole first lot. So if you're going to get it, I can only assume you're going to get a complete story before it moves on to the next volume.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I could be wrong. I don't think Conan is part of the Savage Avengers of the current run. I don't think he is. So again, if you are a fan of this, or if you find yourself down the line wanting to buy the second volume, this, you know, you'll miss out on this if once it's out of print, it's gone. But who writes the current one then, the second volume? Do you know?
I haven't checked.
Oh. Well, this is Jerry Duggan and Chris Claremont, but I'm not too sure how much Chris Claremont is involved in it, really. From what I remember with the single issues, it was Jerry Duggan had written most of it. Unless Claremont's written some of the... Well, there's obviously Uncanny X-Men, 1981 materials in there. So maybe he's just part of that as opposed to the actual run itself.
I think this
is two very different writers.
Yeah.
I think the Chris Claremont involvement would be from the Uncanny X-Men 1981.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But he was down as the main artist main writer for this, so it kind of made me think if it is, like, in terms of when I wrote this up, like, if that's the only reason why he's in this for that X-Men from 1991, that's not enough. I don't think, to warrant getting your name in the book.
No,
but, I mean, it doesn't have Claremont on the cover. It says Dugan down the bottom left.
Yeah. And Mike Deodato Jr.
He's the main artist on the book, I think.
Wow. Butch Geist, Ron Garney, John Romita Jr. I'm not a fan. But yeah, if this interests you, pick this up. Hopefully we get a good deal, a good price once it comes out and release, and I'll pick it up. But as we were saying, I think once it goes, it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the main reason it's interested me, and I think it's something that Marvel must feel confident about, because this is a relatively new series. This only wrapped up last year. I think it started in 2019. So yeah, it's a relatively new one for them to put out. So
And that Venom looks quite menacing, doesn't it? Everyone knows I'm a big Venom fan, which is why I've picked Spider-Man versus Venom. It comes out the 7th of March. It's quite early on this month. A whole host of writers, whole host of artists. Too many to name, to be honest with you, because this is one over the show. It's one of those ones. It's not so much collecting a run of one book. As you can see, it's got Amazing Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, has a few different limited series. Maximum Carnage is in this, and that's the only reason why I'm actually picking up this omnibus, because I think with all their Spider-Man stuff and all their Venom stuff, there's a bit of double dipping in this.
Yeah.
But because Maximum Carnage is not collected in any other oversized format other than this, which is the reason why I'm picking this up. Because we read Maximum Carnage for the Nerd Herd, and I know the rest of the guys weren't overly fussed on it. That was fine for them, but I love that story, and I want to read it again in this format. So I have to have this just to kind of, be a Venom completionist, I suppose. Really,
I'm the same. I'm totally the same. This is why I'm picking it up. It's those Maximum Carnage issues in oversized. It's going to fill a gap in my Spider-Man collection and my Venom collection. So I'm just going to kick myself if I don't pick it up.
Gee, would you be a Venom fan? Is this something that would interest you, or did you enjoy? Have you read, or did you enjoy Maximum Carnage?
To be honest, I'm not that invested in Marvel, so I don't kind of follow the bigger kind of events or anything. Anything that I've read in Marvel has been more kind of what would have been considered at the time sort of B and C kind of characters within things. So like within, say, like Wolverine, I read X-23, and I read the sort of Dark Daken stuff. Within sort of Spider-Man, I've read the Scarlet Spider, which was the Kane run, not the Ben Reilly stuff. And I read the Rick Remender Agent Venom run. But I haven't read anything current as far as sort of Spider-Man's concerned. As I said, it's really just things that I can read complete without having to read the entire universe, because I couldn't invest in what are you guys at now, like 10 omnibuses. That's just mental to me. For
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Well, you got the five OGs, the original series, and you have obviously the Ultimate Universe. There's two out the minutes. Miles Morales. Yeah,
and then the Venom ones.
Probably touching close to 20, to be honest. 20 omnibus.
So I would love a Rick Remender like Agent Venom omnibus. I'd probably buy that, but other than that, I'm not really invested.
I could be wrong, but Martin, was Rick Remender Venom on that list of Omars for the reprints? Can you remember?
I don't think it was.
No,
it's never been printed as an omnibus. So
that's true.
Yeah,
right.
The only one on Omar's list is Volume 1, I think, because that's out of print at the moment. You can still get Volume 2 and 3 of the Ben Omnibus. So.
Yeah. Well, just then a recap of what we've all picked. Highland G with Sonic the Hedgehog, the IDW Collection, Volume 3. Martin, Sonic's Comics, has not one for Sonic. He's one for Salvage Avengers. And myself, Spider-Man versus Venom. But I was always going to pick Venom, really, wasn't I? So, okay. How did that go? Because that's all Scott. Scott made that presentation for me. And the funny thing is, he's actually... he trusts me to be able to edit this every month myself for the different books. And Martin, you're laughing because you know that's not going to happen. I will try my best.
Scott's giving you the template then.
Yeah, but he is offering his services. So if anyone else needs any production work, give Scott Shelf a shout, and just he'll give mates rates, so it's all good.
It reminds me of that older, I want to say it's an Xbox interface where it used to have that kind of style where it was like all the tabs off to one side or off to the other side, and they just kind of flipped across almost like a book.
It's like a book, yeah. That's what it's like. It's really cool. See, it's good. It's good creative thinking. Say LB0811. Can't catch it live, fellas. We'll catch it tomorrow. Like the new visuals, looking good. Have a good one. Thanks very much. Fuzzy was here. Saying, Ethan, I hope your show goes well. Thanks, Fuzzy. And Chris was admiring the work, the hard production work paying off. It does. Rich is here. Saying, Ethan and Jens, looking forward to catching up with us over the weekend. And Larry's Library. First time on the show. I'm a fan of Larry's Library.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
His daughter is the comic slayer as well. And they do a great live one stuff as well. He's still on the fence about Savage Avengers. But I think, if I'm right, you do collect the Conan stuff. If I'm right, he does. So, as we discussed, if you don't have this, you may never get it again if Conan goes to wherever it goes to.
Conan's going into Titan, and they are reprinting all the main runs, but they won't be able to print anything that's got Marvel or DC in it, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
I do like, though, how they've come out and shown their spine designs that are just like the Marvel Omnis. So they're, kudos to Titan. They're trying to make sure our shelves look good still.
Yeah.
Dash Long, hashtag Easter eggs. And Scott's just like say any work you want him to do, anything at all, he'll do anything for him. I'm sure he'll think of something. He'll help you out. As Chris has mentioned, he needs some plastering and roofing work if you diversify, Scott. I think Scott will be willing to give it a go. But yeah, guys, do you have a haul? Do you have stuff you want to haul? Show us.
I've got a couple of things. Yeah, I've got a couple of things because I said literally just did my last video was my haul, so I haven't really picked up much since then. But I've got a couple of bits.
Has that video come out yet?
Yeah.
Was it today?
No, last week.
Oh, okay.
Last week was my big haul video, and I didn't bring out anything on Sunday because I don't have any more back catalogue to bring out, and so.
No, I just meant I would have felt bad if I asked you to share your haul here if your video wasn't out yet. But if it was one from last week, then we'll see it. But we want to see it again. So this segment I'm going to call Haulin It, just because it sounds good. Highland G, do you want to show us off what you've picked up so far this month or in the last month?
So yes, I've just got a couple of things that I've picked up here. I don't have all the stuff that was in my kind of haul, but I just thought some of this was kind of cool. So I've been picking up some older hardcovers and different runs of things that I thought was quite cool. And one of the ones that I was picking up was called Titan Mouse of Might. And if you haven't heard of that, it's basically a mouse as Batman. And it's like two sort of small hardcovers done by this sort of independent guy. And I got the first one a while ago, and I was trying to get the second one. And actually now it's kind of weirdly gone up in price, like it's been reprinted at a higher price rate or something like that. But they released 2 single issues recently, which I'm not sure if they're new issues or if they're like facsimiles of the first issues that ever came out. But I just thought the cover was like really, really cool. So it's Titan House of Might. It's Blood Moon Comics, and it's this mouse as Batman, and it's a black and white comic inside. It just looks badass.
It does.
That does
like
look
it's cool. It's strange to see like Batman's cowl on a mouse. But it does look really cool. Yeah,
it's like Mighty Mouse meets Batman. Like it's it's really cool. So yeah, so I'm going to get the second issue of that as well. I don't know if these are facsimiles or if this is actually a continuation beyond the 2 sort of hardcovers. But it's just something that really kind of caught my eye. I was going down a little bit of a random mouse rabbit hole for a while where I bought like Mouse Templar and a couple of other like similar named things just to kind of try them out. And then I stumbled across this and I was like, well, I've got to give that a go because it's Batman. So, yeah. And then, I picked up a couple of other trades recently. I've been trying to get any of the trades that go along the sort of era of sort of the original Young Justice run, sort of Chuck Dixon's Nightwing, stuff like that. And there's a few runs that I just haven't got my hands on yet. So I've got them all on the wish list and I've just been picking them up whenever they go roughly about £14 or less, sort of on Amazon. So this is the book 3 of Supergirl. I picked up book 1 for a £5 on Zavi. So that's 1 and 3. So I need to get, I think it's 2 and 4 because I've only done 4 of them so far. And then I got the first book of Superboy as well. I don't know if they've done any more of these. A lot of these didn't get like their full runs printed, but it's the only way you can really pick them up. So even if I can only get part of the runs, I still want to read this stuff because it's that really fun, sort of filtered DC back in the day when these guys really got to let loose, and it's just it's a good fun time.
Yeah, well, Supergirl by Peter David, that's something I would hope would get like an oversized omnibus, but the way DC do things, I cannot see that happening anytime
Well, I mean,
soon.
the main Supergirl run is like the most popular kind of run. They've done all sorts of weird stuff with because it basically started in Batman Superman, and it was like issues 8 to 13 or something. That's like Kara's origin story when she appears like as Kara for the first time, kind of thing. And they collected that in the omnibus of those runs, but they also collected it in an absolute as part of that run. And I believe there's now a artist edition coming out with, I forget who it is, it does the artist books. It's a different publisher, like Dark Horse or something does them. But it's like the actual, I think it's like Tim Sale art edition or whatever, the guy who drew it, I forget who it was that drew it, like it's a separate thing, but it's never been collected with the rest of the Supergirl run. Like, so I've got the larger trades like this sort of style for the main sort of Supergirl run. It's like, again, 5, maybe 6 trades along like that. And then, you know, I'm going to need to get like an absolute or something for just that first 4 or 5 issues that actually introduces it, rather than it being like one complete thing. So I've been holding off forever because I'm hoping that, as you say, like these things should get, you know, omnibuses. But then there's so many runs that I've just been like, why has this never had an omnibus? Like the Red Daughter, like New 52 Supergirl run was like as big as Wonder Woman, and it never got anything beyond trades.
No, which was
The Red Lanterns run, completely ignored.
Yep.
I can't think of the other stuff. The Green Lantern stuff. Just, I see, like it's a whole bunch of stuff that just like in those eras and things that have just never had, and you're just like, it doesn't make sense, because if there's something against the writer or something like that, they weren't going to publish that writer's work, then you'd be like, okay, fair enough. But then you look at things like No Man's Land, which is like 99% like head ran by Chuck Dixon, and they've got 3 omnibuses of that, but they've never released his Nightwing run.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
And it's like, that's his biggest run. Instead, they did what was it, Kyle's run of Nightwing and the Grayson stuff as the first ever Nightwing omnibus, which was just really strange.
It's cashing on the new 52, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
why
they
they
did the
did it.
year 1 and the stuff that was Chuck Dixon's like stuff as an oversized hardcover. They've just never done his actual run.
That's out of print, that year one, isn't it? You can't get that anymore, sure you can't.
Yeah, they did them
Yeah,
in weird
it is.
bursts. Like they did them as like a trade, and then they did year 1 of, I think it was Robin and Batgirl together as a slightly thicker trade. And then a few years ago now, they did each of them as oversized hardcovers. I remember I got them for Christmas, bought for me. And then, yeah, they just never reprinted them. They weren't like in a full production run. It was just like a small burst.
The Nightwing one is one of my biggest grails. I jumped on those when I picked up Batgirl and Robin. Batgirl being the one that was the harder one to get than the Robin one. But Nightwing,
Yeah.
I can't get that anywhere.
I mean, the
Yeah,
Batgirl and Robin ones you kind of want together because they're kind of the same story, like they connect up. But the Nightwing one, as a Nightwing fan, I just had to have as even though it is its own kind of separate story.
I thought you had the Nightwing one, Martin. Did you get the second one? The
No, I've got the Prince of Gotham new 52 one, and I've got the Grayson omnibus.
Grayson. That's the second half, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the second half of the new 52 run. Should we just we'll put it down to that, even though it's that's what it is.
Yeah,
But
the way
other than
Nightwing
that,
came out was Nightwing converted into Nightwing during Teen Titans, and then he started his own run with Chuck Dixon, did the full run of that, and then at the end of that run, as like they asked him to come back type thing, someone else had taken over at the end of his run and basically burnt Bloodhaven to the ground, so there was nothing for him to come back to. So rather than him being able to continue his run, he wrote a year 1 after the fact, as a kind of an extra thing for them for Nightwing. So the year 1's like almost a retrospective more than a complete written before his run kind of thing, which makes it quite cool. But yeah, those 2 things were like the origin of Nightwing getting his own runs, and then they kind of butchered it for a bit before it got picked up again at New 52.
I like to think we are going to see a change though with DC. I think seeing that we're getting Green Lantern Corps Volume 1 Omnibus coming out at the end of the year, it gives me hope. Especially that after Tomasi sort of on Twitter came out and said that it's going to go right the way through to his Green Lantern Corps New 52 run as well. So we're going to get that whole era pre-New 52 right the way up. And it'll just go alongside your Green Lantern ones from Johns.
Jeff Johns. Yeah, the thing with DC in general, like, I think now, we're all fans of Omar, but or we watched, at least we know who Omar is, but I think he said recently he's spoken with someone from DC and they all this rumor where they're kind of giving up in the collected edition game, the hardcover, they're not really interested in it, is nonsense. Like, they are very much looking towards doing that. So there are so many DC books, like we refer to Supergirl and obviously the Nightwing, that need not even like omnibus, just oversized deluxe editions or something good that we could showcase the art. So hopefully they do up their game. I mean, it's one of those ones we've discussed it before. Maybe DC just aren't doing enough, whereas Marvel are just doing too much. Just give us a good, happy medium, nice in between.
It's weird because DC's omnibuses are generally, I mean, a little bit heavily glued, but really well built in general compared to like most other kind of companies' bigger books. But they don't seem to do that many of them, and even their deluxes nowadays are a bit hit and miss with their binding and a bit heavily glued and stuff. The amount of books people have had recently that have been like stuck down deluxe editions and stuff that I've just been like, what are they playing at?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cheat.
Scott is asking for more Flash, and normally I would go, oh no, not a chance, but Scott has got me into reading and loving the Flash, certainly the current run by Jeremy Adams. Is that your haul, G? Is that you for now? That's
the sort of that's the 3 books that I've got here just now, and so like everything else that I picked up was in my kind of video, but the things I can remember was like the big monstrous book, sort of volume 2. And the metal omnibus, a couple of things like that.
Yeah, Larry is saying DC is pissing everyone off late with all the standard sized hardcovers, and that, like, yes, 100%. Like, for what's the current? Is it Batman versus Superman? Or no, what is it?
World's Finest.
World's Finest. Yeah, like, I really want to read that, but I don't want a standard hardcover. I'd rather have a trade paperback over a standard size hardcover.
It's when they're doing it with short runs as well. It's just like, it just feels so weird. Like the Dark Knight Steel or something is only supposed to be like 10 issues, but they've released it as 2 standard size hardcovers. Like,
yes, what? And like Task Zombie said, or if it's called, and the other kind of vampire one, like, again, 2 6-issue standard size hardcovers.
And they did 2 or 3 like random like 2.5 3 issue trades as well at one point, just to get people to sample stuff. Like, it was really random.
And DC versus Vampires as well. That's another one. I got volume 1, and that's going to come in volume 2. So just hold off and give me, if it's a 12-issue run, just hold off. Give me a deluxe edition. I will pay for the deluxe edition. You know.
And then I waited to get the deluxe edition of the Sean Murphy book. I forget what it was, the White Knight, and then they've glued down the fucking spine.
Yes, you're right. Yeah,
like, that really annoyed the hell out of me. Like,
yeah, but even the White Knight came out first. Well, the collected edition was paperback first, and then a hardcover, and then a deluxe hardcover, and then they're doing the same with each subsequent volume. I just think give us the oversized cover first, get those collectors, and then go down the way as opposed to going up the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's how a bookshop would do it. They would bring out the deluxe edition for the fans who actually want the book. You buy it at a much higher price in the deluxe hardcover version, and then the mass market trade paperback, hence the name trade paperback, comes out down the line. That's I mean, my girlfriend gets annoyed that way around because she only reads a lot of the novels she buys in paperback, and she has to wait 3 to 6 months after every hardcover comes out to get the paperback.
But the thing is, like, once you get to that stage where there's no longer any hardcovers and it's just the trade paperbacks, that's what you keep in circulation. Like 10 years down the line, if that's what people want to read, they're there to read. The hardcover's done and gone. The collectors have got it. Maybe we're just being...
But then that becomes a problem with people like Brubaker, because people who become fans down the line then want the hardcovers again, and he's like, I'm on to paperbacks. I'm done with the hardcovers.
Yeah. He says that, but yet he'll release.
And then he has to reprint them because of sheer demand. Yeah.
I'm one of them. You better print Clubby Kill. I need that on my shelf.
And
Cruel Summer.
Cruel Summer is the other one you need as well, isn't it?
But if he had his way, it would be straight to hardcover, and then once the third hardcover run sells out, paperback, and that's it. He wouldn't do singles, and wouldn't do the hardcover again. It would just be a one-off.
And that Killer Be Kill thing is quite annoying too, because it looked like it was coming for so long, and then it didn't, and then it was again, and it's not. That's not obviously not out, so. Who knows if we're ever getting that? I don't think nobody's confirmed either way. Should they haven't?
There's been a few books floating around like that, like the TMNT Batman omnibus and stuff, where like their release dates seem to just be floating around for some reason.
Well, the TMNT Batman stuff. Sorry,
what's he sitting at now? Like, when's the you said TMNT Batman? Like, that's changed.
I think it's got a firm date again now, but there's nothing saying that's not going to change.
Is it October?
Because it was up and it had no date, and then it got a date, and everybody got really excited, and then it went into the Amazon kind of like, 2099 thing where it says for a while, and then it got a date again. But it's never not been solicited. It's just moved around a lot.
It was cancelled when it first came out to me 2 years ago, because I had a pre-order.
It never left Amazon though, even though it was supposedly cancelled.
That's what I'm saying. So DC did cancel, or at least announced it wasn't being printed or wasn't coming out, and that was like December 2020, I think. It was just not long after.
Ages ago.
Yeah. Because I think they put the reason down to the whole pandemic paper shortage thing. Like, listen, we need to be picky on our books for printing here, so they cancelled that. And I was gutted because I was looking forward to it. But yeah, I think it's been solicited now for at least another going on a year since we found out about it again, but it hasn't come out. Did you get a date there?
My records, I've got it down as August.
Take that with a pinch of salt, I suppose. Really, we just don't know until we see it in our hands. We do not know.
It will move again. I'm trying to keep an ongoing record of things that are coming out, even stuff I don't buy, just so that when we have these discussions, I've got something to refer to. So.
Yeah. Nice. And another book kind of like that, but just in DC, and we were talking about this today, Martin, is Spider-Geddon. Like, it came out last week, but you can't get it anywhere online at the minute. Or came out, is it this week? Like the past week it's come out, is that right?
It's well, I don't know. I went to London last week, and it was there. I had it in my hands, but it was sort of way overpriced. Overpriced. It was probably near cover price, and I wasn't paying that. So...
but there's nowhere else. There's nowhere else online that we could find it. Even Amazon don't have it, and I just think it's gonna be one of those books. It's gonna be stupidly annoying to buy. It's gonna go out of print really quick, and it will be on Omar's list next year for reprint probably because people would miss out on it. And
I reckon it will be.
Yeah, because I want to read like the Spider-Gwen stuff and all too. So like I feel like I need this Spider-Geddon before I read all that. And I don't have it pre-ordered. That's the importance of pre-ordering books, I suppose, really. But with Spider-Man especially, I always find pre-orders quite expensive. But yet, once it's actually released, you can pick it up a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I was going to get the Spider-Gwen one, and I held off on it for that reason, thinking that they're probably going to have a bit of backstock, and it might come down a little bit. I noticed the cover changed slightly as well. The covers that they had her picture with like a white border around it, and now it's a picture with a black border around it.
Do you mean the Gwenpool book? Is it, or is it?
The Gwenpool one. Yeah, it's changed. Yeah.
I went for with Spider-Gwen. I had to get it on pre-order because I could not buy it if I didn't get the 300, like the issue 300 exclusive DM variant.
Yeah, it's nice.
So yes, I had to get that.
But it's so different. Again, nowadays from flipping the covers all the time. Like sometimes it's again, I kind of wait until something comes out to make sure you actually buy the cover you want and not like some random.
It's got to that stage, isn't it? You've got to hold on. And this is why, I watch Omar's channel a lot because he will update you first if it's going to change or anything like that. Or I'll wait for him to show us. Or even Organic Price Books. I check when they do their little overviews just to get an idea of what we're getting.
Do you know that as well with near mint conditions videos, like even not like all the announcements and whatever else, he has the books on his Kallax like facing forward. And so that that's coming soon. It must be soon. It's sitting there. He's reviewed it. It's ready to go. But he doesn't talk about them, obviously. But at some point you're going to have that video. So that's what I look forward to as well. And you see those hidden in the back. It's Easter eggs. You see them hidden in the background, and that is coming soon enough. Larry would like to ask you a question. Is
I
that
was
a
gonna-
Secret Labs chair, and are you happy with it?
Yes, it is. I don't know if you can see it on here. It's all matted out. But yeah, it is a Secret Labs chair. I went through so many different chairs for different kind of reasons because I was kind of working from home and stuff like that as well. And never really wanted a gaming chair, to be honest. I backed a thing on Kickstarter that had like a spring back support and all this kind of stuff, but it ended up falling through, and I managed to get my money back. And I basically used a chair to kind of get. So I got this. It's kind of like a frosted black, which is quite nice because it means that if you get any dust or dirt on it, you don't really see it. But they don't do like 5 different options now. It's basically one chair but 3 sizes. I went for the middle one. I actually regret buying the larger size. Like, buy your size, don't buy bigger than you. It's more comfortable if you get it to your actual size because the shoulder parts and stuff like sit where you're supposed to be. But it's got lumbar support built in, all the stuff kind of adjusts. The only kind of thing I don't really like too much is the handle kind of rails are a little bit wobbly. But yeah, generally I got it in a Black Friday. I got like 80 quid off it or something. Good.
Not bad.
So if you're kind of unsure, as I said, like, make sure you get your size correct. But other than that, they've been really good. And I had the lumbar supports built into this one, and it got creaky. And they sent me out a replacement back and then collected my old one, so I didn't have to be without the back of the chair. So they were really
Wow.
good.
It's good customer service.
That's what you want.
I've seen like the character, like there's the Batman, there's like the Joker ones. They look really cool. Like there's no question they're big fan. Like I think
Well, they
Adam
actually do replaceable back covers now, so you can
Oh, do
buy the covers you want and take them off if you get bored of them.
Oh, because
It's
the
not
other
the
one,
cheapest thing to do, but
Yeah.
it's cheaper than buying a new chair.
the other one I liked was before the Cyberpunk game came out, and they had like the yellow chair. So that looks so cool. I want to get that. But I think again, like, yours is black, mine's black, Martin's is black. When you're in streams, I think the yellow chair would look a bit silly after a while.
Yeah, Comic Bound's got the Batman one. He's got
Batman,
the
he
leather
does.
Batman one. So they've done like specific character ones that was like leather. So they've done a Batman one that was all black with the black Batman insignia on the back of it. They did a Flash one that was all red leather. And I forget if there's a Superman one or something as well. I think it's like a dark blue leather.
Yeah.
But I got as I said, it's like a meshy plush type material, so it's more breathable, and that way, like if it's hot or cold, it doesn't like make you sit in a freezing cold chair. And the main kind of various support bits and stuff have like gels and stuff for cooling anyway. So like the pillow, if you use it, has like cooling gel in it, and the main seat bar does as well. So yeah, I thought it was really good for the money I paid, but I got like 80 quid off of it because I got it in a Black Friday.
Yeah, I think something like a big purchase like that, I would always wait for Good Friday or a summer sale or just some random discount code or something, definitely. Because they're quite pricey, I think. I mean, you're talking 200 plus. Again, the bigger sizes that go up, it's an extra £100.
Yeah, exactly. And the more things you add or tweak, the more it's going to cost. Like I got the lumbar pillow because I've had back issues before, so that was like an extra maybe 50 quid or something for the lumbar pillows and an extra thing. And you can get gel kind of arm supports, so these like magnetically come off, and you can put like gel ones on so that they're like cooling on your arms, like other little bits and pieces. But again, as I said, how much you want to pay? Do you want to pay £600 or do you want to pay £300? Like.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's our next show. What's all the gaming chair about?
Gaming chairs.
That's coming next week. Martin, do you want to show us off some of your?
Yeah, I've got a couple of bits, but I won't. I'll try and go quick because usually it takes about 45 minutes for me to go through my stuff. So I've only got 4. So first of all, I've got the Once in Future Deluxe.
Nice.
So that's better that angle.
Nice.
This was a struggle for me to get in decent condition. I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram. I made a few comments about it on there. I ordered it from a certain company I won't name, and I got damage after damage after damage. This was the 4th copy that I got that was eventually not damaged. So
the slipcase was dented.
The first one I got, the slipcase was dented, and the book inside on the spine was dented.
Mm-hmm.
So that bad.
Have you checked the book inside on this one?
No, but no marks at all on this whatsoever. It is. So I haven't opened it up.
It's just because sometimes with the newer BIM books, when you first open them, like the glue's not like it doesn't break, but it's not like the best glue between the ribbon and the body. So like it's just worth checking because you might have to put just a little bit of glue in before you read it the first time if it comes off a little bit.
I'll check that because I've got some glue. So I'll
There's nothing major. It doesn't crack the book up or anything if you catch it.
And you'll be opening that soon enough, because once in future, Volume 3 will be coming to the book club at some point relatively soon. So,
if you haven't read 1 and 2, they're also.
Because you must be due another hardcover at some point for that.
Yeah, well, if they finish the series, they must be close to it at least if they haven't already finished it. So
very close. It's very close, if not finished, as far as I know.
So
the one I'm hoping for next is Seven Secrets, but they haven't released the last trade yet. Like, I think the last trade is due to come out in like a few weeks.
I think it's out
once
already.
That's out. Is it?
I think Volume 3 is out, because I could be wrong, but I think there's someone on Instagram, I think, got it recently. Don't know if you guys follow Sam Taylor. I think he posted it up. Could be,
because I was looking into it and I was like, oh, well, they're not going to release the hardcover until the final trade's out. But if the final trade's out, then they can kind of look at it.
I'm hoping that comes this year. 7 6 was great. I have all the singles plus a few of the variants and stuff. I haven't read the whole thing because I kind of stopped reading it because I wanted to read it in oversized deluxe format. So hopefully that comes this year.
Doing a Kickstarter with slipcases with each of the 7 logos on them, and you choose which one you want in your tier.
How many issues are in 7 Secrets run?
18.
So it will come.
Yeah, it'll come like that.
It'll be one hardcover.
It'll be
one complete.
Like
yeah. But they could totally make it a briefcase.
But as G saying, you'll have to buy 7 of them if you're a completionist. You'll have
well,
7.
that's the thing. Yeah, you'd have to buy 7 copies. Yeah, to get the 7 logos. Or get Scott's 3D file.
You could do that. Yeah. Go ahead, Martin.
Another book I got, She-Hulk by Dan Slott Omnibus.
Nice.
I don't know why She-Hulk is like a guilty pleasure for me. I just like reading some of the She-Hulk stuff, so I pretty much grab anything in She-Hulk.
There's a lot more omnibuses coming up, like of She-Hulk and Hulk. So
I've got everything that's out so far. So I'm just hoping that we're going to get the Charles Soule stuff soon, and then we haven't got much more of our solo runs except for the new one.
I haven't read any of the She-Hulk stuff, to be honest, but She-Hulk was a pretty prominent member of the latest Avengers lineup, and I really liked her in it, and that made me a She-Hulk fan, even though it wasn't her own solo book. So that's something I'm looking to get into. The Dan Slott, when I actually had that ordered when it first came out, was it like 2 years ago or something? The first print of that came out, and I was like in Amazon France, had it for like 30 something euros.
Wow.
And I bought it, but it never arrived, and I just kept the order open for so long. And it was only about 3 or 4 months ago they actually found an email to say that you're not getting that. It's, there's no stock, or else you're not that price, whatever it was. And so that was obviously cancelled for me. But it was like 30 something odd euros, which is a ridiculous price. But that never came through. Too good to be true.
I used to do that, just look at random Amazons from different countries and see what prices you could find.
France and Germany, they do cheap books quite often, and obviously you need to look for the English language books, but of course in IG you can read the German ones in IG, can't you?
Well, slowly, I'm trying. I'm one book in.
Martin, Chris, is it a guilty pleasure because you are a perf for green women, Blue Animals, green women? That's the rumours anyway.
It's an added perk. Should we just say that? But I'll move on to my next one.
Yes, please. Ooh, yes.
Daredevil by Frank Miller. Finally, something I've been after for a very long time. So, went for the DM.
Yeah.
Could not go for the DM. Nice. Just disappointed with the spine. Why did they go back to this spine?
It's hideous. Absolutely hideous.
Yeah.
But it's also iconically his spine.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. So I'm just, as long as they stick to the compendium and do the same with the compendium, so it looks okay on my shelf, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, because between those ones and the Electro one, they all had that like really bold looking spines. Love them or hate them.
Yeah, the Electro one too. That's something. The Daredevil's, like, I know obviously, you were asked that question before, or Nightwing or Daredevil, and I personally think Daredevil myself. so many good runs that like you could literally get them all and you wouldn't really ever since Frank Miller, you could get them all and not be disappointed. And that's the word of the street anyway. I also picked that up, which I can now remove from my haul because we've already shown it. And I'm hoping for the companion to be reprinted, and the Electra ones that you've mentioned, G, as well, by Frank Miller. And is it Sinkovich? It's the artist in that, I think.
You can still get that, still available.
Is it?
Yeah, it's currently on Amazon.
Cheap?
Not cheap, but it's something I'm stalking at the moment. It drops down to a price I'm willing to pay.
See, I enjoy Daredevil. I just don't come back to it. Like I've read maybe 3 or 4 different Daredevil omnibus that I've owned, and I've sold them all on because, like, while I've enjoyed the runs, I just don't see that rereadability out of it for me. So, as you said, there's no bad run, but there's not necessarily every run is a gold mine either. And where Nightwing might have some absolute stinkers, the ones that I enjoy, I come back to, and I think that's maybe the difference.
Yeah. Look, I like Nightwing too, and in terms of rereadability, I don't think I've reread anything apart from like Dark Knight Returns.
I'm one of the few people that's actually read most of what's on my shelf.
Flip. What's that like? Because very few people. Chris is saying he loves that such a defining run, and he has a video waiting, so we will stay tuned for that. Is that your last one, Martin?
Last one is a bit strange. I've never been shy about the fact
Doctor Strange.
No.
Yeah.
I like sort of dystopian futures, or or like cyberpunk type stories. The little thing that I've been collecting for a while now, Judge Dredd. I don't know why. I just it's the universe really does. This is volume 17 of the complete case files. You might be able to see here. I have more. I have the 1 to 17 now. So I will be collecting them. They got to 41 at the moment, but we're at a stage
picked
now.
up the Dredd stuff on Humble Bundle as a digital thing like ages ago, but it was so intimidating, the sheer volume of like stuff that I got, because I got the case files as you said, but then there's also like the different judges. So there's like Judge Dredd stories, I forget, there's 2 or 3 other judges stories, and like
Judge Anderson,
some other bits
Judge Death.
Yeah, and then there's like the cyber Tokyo type stuff as well. And I was just like, yeah, this is quite a lot to get into. It looks fun, but I
love this sort of stuff. The
jump
artwork.
into it yet.
The artwork's really nice. We're in this sort of era now. I think from volume 11, it moves into colour. So you've got black and white for the first 10, and then we're moving into the colour era now. But something I'm desperate to sort of sit back and read when I get a chance, because I love that sort of.
That's sort of 2000 AD type stuff, not things that get read that often or shown off that often, so it's quite cool to see.
Yeah. Did you say there was 40 odd of those volumes?
41 at the moment, 42 maybe, and they're still releasing them. They're still bringing them out, and volume 22 and 23 are currently out of print. And I messaged 2000 AD about it the other day, and they have confirmed that they are going to be reprinted. I think these runs are evergreen. They keep them going. So if you like that sort of thing, go pick them up.
Now, Judge Dredd is one of those ones that, again, I haven't read myself, but I always think it looks cool. Like, it looks like it should be a good read. But, like, just what puts me off Judge Dredd, and I don't want to be, like, ageist, but I know a lot of my older friends would have read, like, the progues that they're called, they were called.
Yeah, that's what these are. What these are, the progs.
Yes, they're not even... Are they like proper comics? Like, what way is the format of the book? Is it like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, these are a collection of the progs. So I don't know if you best see it on the thing, but above there they say it's the collection of the progs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is a prog? What is it?
I don't know. That's one thing I haven't looked into. I just I like the artwork. I like the universe, so I thought that's probably the easiest way to get into Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
So that's the angle I've gone for. I haven't gone any further than that at the moment.
Are they oversized? Those books?
No, they're fat trades. They're trade height, but they're just a little bit wider.
Okay.
I think a lot of the 2000 AD stuff came out like in a 2000 AD magazine, so it would have all been like an anthology type thing. So you'd have like say 10 books that you're getting like part of an issue in like a magazine, and then later on they would collect it as whatever things kind of worked, and things that didn't work would get dropped out, and newer things would get pulled in, and you'd get
So
like
it's not like the kind of traditional comic book issues 1 to such and such. It's the same. Like it is in terms of like the volume of a story, but not in the same way like a single.
Yes,
issue
yes, it's more like chapters
Yeah.
than issues, and they would have been, as I said, they wouldn't have been released as separate issues. They would have been released as part of a anthology magazine that has other stories going on in it at the same time.
Because I have read the first like 25% of the first volume, and it's very much short stories for where he featured in a 2000 AD book. So I haven't got any further than that, so I don't know by this point if we're getting full sort of story runs, but I know we're getting arcs, because when you actually look into the books, they give you story arcs.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger it got, they did then start releasing their own separate stuff, and this is where 2000 AD is almost like a starting platform to see if things kind of take off. And sometimes you get some really interesting, like Vertigo-esque kind of style books that just become like a graphic novel and never go anywhere else. And then you get other stuff like Judge Dredd that just blows up into its own kind of thing and then kind of stands alone by itself after that. So as you said, like started out in black and white, started out as like shorts, and then it kind of builds into longer stories, more color, more judges, spin-offs, so on and so forth as it kind of goes. And you can buy those kind of collected editions, like like super thick, almost like omnibus ones of them as well.
See, I've been looking down the front here at the comments on this particular volume. The actual main writer on it is Garth Ennis, who's a known name, and one of the actual artists on this particular book is Sean Phillips.
Oh,
so
nice.
Didn't know that before, but it looks like a lot of people that we know is not like unknowns that have written these books.
Well, a lot of the kind of British invasion, wasn't it? That was all. They all came from 2000 AD. Like obviously Garth Ennis. What's the Watchmen artist? Dave Gibbon. Is it Dave?
Well, I don't know now.
He came from 2000 AD. I'm pretty certain as well. But yeah, Red Right, Straw Hat, formerly SCC Comics, St. Ethan Trails. Yeah, so is that your haul?
That's my haul. I've had a bit of a quiet month. Majority of the stuff that I've pre-ordered or been waiting for has been knocked back a few weeks. It's going to be falling into Marches.
Luckily for me, I didn't have much pre-ordered for February either, but it was my birthday. I turned 24 during February, so yeah, 24. It's hard, so I had quite a few books on my wish list, and I finally picked them up. So I've got 10 here, but I'll go through them quite quickly. The first one is Mouse. How's that pronounced? Mouse. And again, I know nothing about this other than the fact that it's a controversial book. It obviously depicts, Nazis and World War II and the concentration camps, but in like mouse characters. I feel like it's something you can have to read because they teach us in schools and all. Like it's quite a it's a Pulitzer Prize winner. So yeah, that's something I felt like I needed to.
Yeah, I think it was like written based on like his dad's experiences or something, and then they used the animals as a way to like depict the different peoples. So there's like mice for one thing, cats for other things, and kind of so on, depending on what race or group you're in, kind of thing.
I can imagine it's not a happy read, obviously. I would imagine so, but again, one of those things.
Well, I mean, it's covering Nazis and concentration camps and stuff. So it's not like exactly
you're not gonna have a good time, but I feel like that's something I want to read.
There's some books that I forget what the phrase was someone said recently, but it's not that it's something you'd want to recommend, but it's something that if you're up for the experience, it's something that is worth going through, kind of thing. Yeah.
See, me and my wife went to New York a few years ago, and we went to the 9/11 memorial, and it was not a good day. Like, you do not have fun when you're there, but it's good to kind of see and be part of it and experience that. It's the exact same thing, I suppose, in a book. Red writes, and he thinks the dogs are the British, and no doubt they're probably like British bulldogs, I'd imagine, possibly. But
It's not what I've read personally. As I say, like it's not anything against that book, but I just got a bit burnt out on Nazis being in comic books, so I just kind of avoid anything that's got the World War references in it in any way. So, like, it's not. I say I'm nothing against it. I'll come back to it at some point, but for me, I just got to a point where I was like, nah, I'm out. So if it's got any kind of Nazi reference, even like Captain America, I just
It's a bit maxed out, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can't take so much.
Yeah, I agree. Chris is saying it has a lot of humor, a lot of heart. Yes, it's upsetting, but the fact life goes on, it's uplifting as well as disturbing. I think, again, like I said, it's an important part of literature, isn't it? Like, it's been taught in schools. Like, it's something that you feel like you should kind of read at some stage. But moving on to something a bit more lighthearted.
From Hell.
Yeah.
No.
But so I have the singles of this, but this in the last month or so since the James Gunn announcements has gone everywhere. You can't pick this up. Luckily, my local comic book store had some copies left, and I want to reread it again. I just don't have the hassle of picking out 8 single issues to read. So I grabbed the trade of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
If that's what they're basing the movie on, it's a bit of a random point to start a character on. Like, it is. I mean, it's a good character journey point, but you haven't given us who this character is.
Yeah, because you're right to what you're saying. Because from what I remember, what's her name? I'm terrible at remembering names of characters. Supergirl, whatever her name is, she flies to another planet to where, like, there's no sun. She doesn't have the enhanced power, so she's able to drink and be drunk and get drunk. And then after that, it's like the movie True Grit, where family's just been slain, and she employs her to help her find their killer and so forth. But really good, really funny.
It's like a slightly more adult version, I think, of when Supergirl joined the Red Lanterns in this New 52 run, where she's a little bit younger at that point, so she can't. I think they actually tries to get a drink or something, and Guy takes it off of her and says you can't drink because you're a minor, and it's a whole thing. So this is like a slightly more adult version of that as a story. But I just
she swears a lot in this, a lot of cuss
words.
Yeah.
I just want before this, even if you jump to this as your second film, I would want the Kara like crashes to Earth story, where do the movie version, but just go balls to the wall, where the whole idea is Kara's been circuiting the planet for like the last 10 years or however long it's taken for Superman to grow up. That entire time she's been absorbing the sun. She's now come down. She's confused. The army goes for her, and she goes full out, and she's like 10 times the strength of Superman. That's the movie I want first. Then do this.
Yeah, like I feel like if this is an important part of her later on in life, where she wants to experience different things than being a hero type of thing, they should have that hero part first.
Then they can depower her, and they can show the opposite. Again,
I think. Go ahead.
So I like Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's introduction to Kara. I'd love to see that in a movie. I know we've got it in the animated movie, so I'm quite happy we've got it in some form, but I would like that to be the introduction, and maybe they could just show that and skip forward to this, because we all know that the reason that book has been picked is because Tom King is one of the people that James Gunn's been consulting. So he's going to pick his Supergirl run, isn't he? If he's going to go with that.
Saying that you're right, but saying that is very good. I would recommend you read that, to be honest.
I have heard that. I'm not going to take that away from it, because I'm pleased it's got the traction it's got now, because I'm hoping that the sale of the trade is going to push a deluxe edition.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I bought the trade because I want to read it soon. And if they bring a deluxe or an absolute, it's a good size for an absolute. It's 8 issues, I believe. I can't remember if there was a random one shot. I know sometimes they'll do like a random, or Tom King will have like a 12-issue run with like some random one shot. I can't remember if it did. I don't think it did. But 8 issues. Give us an absolute edition, because the art in that's a Bill Quist Everly, and I'll just try and see if I can show you some of the art without spoiling anything.
This for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yep. I'll try to show you something without spoiling it.
So I've never read it, but I know the gist of the kind of story of what's kind of in it as an overall kind of thing. Is I looked at the first couple of single issues, but as I've said with most things, I wait now until it comes out as like a an oversized or some sort of collected edition before I buy into it now. So just been kind of holding off.
It's just quite
Um,
like otherworldly, and
it's a very different take on.
Do you know?
On even like that kind of comic book art, it's got its own kind of feel, I think.
Yeah, do you know like the Thor run, the Jason Aaron Thor, and it was what was the artist on it? Terrible at remembering names, but I feel like this Belquist Evely should have been the artist on that. Even though that was good, this is better. I would suit a Thor book more than a Supergirl book. I know Martin's left. I'm going to run through some trades quickly. I don't know anything about these. I just picked up because I want to read them. Geiger and Rogue Sun. I'm picking up because I'm getting all the Massive First stuff. I'm getting Radiant Black in singles, but I'm going to pick up all the other stories in trade and just have one big kind of Massive First binge. So that's what I'm going for.
I hope they collect Radiant Black at some point, even if it doesn't collect all the spin-off stuff, like just like a hardcover of Radiant Black.
I would imagine it's Image Comics, but obviously it kind of follows the Power Rangers. It's the same creator from the Power Rangers. I can imagine
it's the same kind of model.
Like a year 1, year 2 hardcover collection of some sort. I mentioned the Flash. Scott gave me this for my birthday. This is the volume 17, I believe. 16s had the Jeremy Adams run kicked off, which is fantastic. It's Wally West. I'll talk about that later on, hopefully. But this is the next one in that, so that's top of the pile, to be honest, because Flash.
I really need to finish off the Williamson run because I kind of held off when it started going to trades, so I haven't finished off the kind of Williamson stuff, but I keep planning on doing that now that Wally's kind of back. Although I have read 1 or 2 of the Wally issues. Like I picked up the annual. Have you read the annual? Like the Wild Wests?
Yeah, it's in the first book, I think. Yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one.
Have you read Heroes in Crisis? Yeah. Well, this volume, I don't want to spoil it. Improves that. It makes it better.
It fixes that.
In a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Heroes in Crisis is a gorgeous book. It's just what they did with the characters, like.
Yeah, I said to Scott, like here, I felt really let down by Heroes in Crisis, to be honest. However, the Flash volume before that makes me like it again, to the point I want to go back and reread it, knowing what I know now.
I do wonder if they'll ever put like the Wally arc together, if you like if they'll do. Edition? Yeah, well, like the first Rebirth issue was Wally coming back. Mm-hmm. Then there was like an issue where like he tries to speak to the Titans, and he's like connecting with Dick. Then he has an issue in the Flash where he comes back. Then you get Heroes in Crisis, flash forward, and then you would get the start of this. If they were to take like that and kind of collect it as like Wally's return as like an overall thing, that'd be quite nice. I don't know if they'd ever do that, but for fans, that would kind of make a lot of this all worthwhile.
Do you think it would work if they do the Williamson run in omnibus format, but then when you get to this point where, we switch, when the first Omni gets released there, they'll bring those issues in,
pull it in at the start of the first Omni, so or have like
it's an intro or something,
separate
to that point.
Yeah, you need something to lead from one to the other. I don't think just having the first issue he appears in the Flash is enough. Like at the very least, you'd need the Rebirth issue.
And even like the Flash Forward stuff. Is Flash Forward? Is that where he kind of like merged with Dr. Manhattan or something like that, wasn't it? Or
he gets Dr. Manhattan's chair. So basically, he gets his powers. And then he becomes so fast he can literally run through the multiverse to fix all the problems that
because he
else
does
has caused.
He does have he's the prominent character that fixes things for them for Doomsday Clock.
So
and
he was already the fastest man alive on Earth. Now he's the fastest man in the multiverse.
Yeah.
Like there's no question. Wally West is the fastest Flash. Full stop.
That's I'm a Wally West fan. And Barry Allen's okay. I prefer Wally West. I think you're right. If they collected something like that, like Wally West's kind of journey, if you so to speak, in the modern day stuff.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it would have little holes in it, but it would work.
I think so. I'll be all for that. Next up, I grabbed the latest. Is it the latest one, or maybe it's the fourth one? 'Cause I'm a few behind.
Oh,
This
the
is
necklace books, yeah. I keep meaning to get onto those.
the Ghost in You. I can't remember if is it the fourth one. I think it's the fourth one. It should be. I have the first three, so it should be the fourth one. And then TMNT, we mentioned the IDW books. This is the collection, volume 7. Now, I don't have volumes 5 and 6, but I'm starting to panic about these now because they're doing like the paperbacks. I'm worried that they're going to stop producing these. So
Yeah.
I'm now just grabbing these as soon as I can.
I got
when I see
Well,
them.
I would have said that if it wasn't for the fact that they've continued bringing them out for the current run.
Yeah.
So, like, they've brought out 14 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
So, with them doing that, they have to allow the people who buy 13, 14, 15 to go back and buy the rest. Like,
especially before. Like,
and IDW have been really good up until they lose licenses with like the Transformers and stuff, where like if they've got like 3 phases, they're still printing them.
Yeah. Well, I don't like paying more than £30 for those books because
no, they are getting expensive. Like
Yeah,
there
they're
are keys
getting
like
pricey.
£55 now for some
Yeah.
of these things. It's the same with the Sonic ones. So what I tend to do is wait till closer to the time and move my pre-orders around until I get to about 35.
Yeah. Well, that one there was around 35, and like I say, I put it on my wish list for the family to buy me. So I didn't want to pay that extra £5, but I'm hoping to get the rest in the around the £30 mark. 35 is okay too, I suppose, but I just don't want to pay the 50, 55 because I think it's just far too much. And
I had the same panic as you. Sorry, I had the same panic as you. Like I struggled to get volume 6. This is going back maybe a year or so, which is the one with April on it.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I had that struggle, I then went out and bought the rest, as we can see behind me. I've got.
See, that's what I'm thinking now. Like I'm going to try and get 5 and 6. I've seen 8, 9, 10 and above. Like they're there, no problem. Again, you can get the prices are up and down. Even on Amazon, the prices are up and down. But I think I'm going to get to the point where I'm just going to buy all of them in one swoop, just to not have the sweat on. Like,
well, I mean, what I do with a lot of things, it all depends on what kind of patience you have with stuff, and what risk you're willing to kind of take, and if you have the budget to spend, when you need to. But what I'll do is I'll set a maximum price for myself on, say, for instance, these Supergirl books I'm trying to pick up just now, and I know they retail up to like £25. They keep floating up and down on Amazon and on various other kind of sites. But if I know that I have, say, £60 to spend on the 4 books, I just buy them as and when they drop to that price. So if I see 2 one day, I'll buy the 2. If I see 1, I'll buy the 1, and I'll buy them in whatever order because I know I'm going to buy the set.
yeah.
If it's something that I was only going to buy the first couple of and try something and then read through it and then continue reading it as I buy it kind of thing, and it was an unproven thing, that it's like 20 volumes or something. Like say when I did the Nightwing run, it was like 8 or 9 volumes of Nightwing, and it came out like they were coming out like every 6 months. I just kind of got them as they came out, and if I didn't like the next volume, I kind of stopped. So when it went to the Peter Tomasi stuff, I just stopped. But with stuff like that, I don't worry about it. I just kind of like build up the collections. The same with like the Usagi Yojimbo. Like I've started reading through it, but I've just stopped it where I've got a gap, and I'm just still currently filling in the gaps as and when I can kind of get them. So if I can get, say, the trade paperback first print edition of volume 8 of Usagi before they do a reprint for cheaper than I'd pay for the reprint, then I'll just buy it. Because I don't care. Like I just want the books.
I'm using the same tactic as you with The Walking Dead. I don't want to spend too much on some of the volumes, so I've got every single one that I've not got so far on like a watch list, and I'm just waiting for them to creep down a little bit. And when they creep down, I pick one up.
Or if you're really picky about quality as well, when I was doing the Fables run, what I would do is buy like people's bundles up. So I would go and I would buy like someone's volumes, say 4 to 7, and say I already had 4, I would then just pick which copy of 4 was the better quality and then sell off the other one.
Not bad, cool.
I've seen that Fables box set they've released this week.
Of like the 4 compendiums.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
It's not as cool as the hardcovers though.
Yeah. Fables, that's the one you kind of didn't finish because you got a bit.
No, it's one of those things, right? Like there's so many comics that when you watch channels like ourselves or much larger channels, they have behind them, and they somewhat talk up, but they don't really get into the gritty of what the book is. And we all have different personalities. We all have different tastes and stuff. So we're going to click with things, better or kind of worse. And for me, Fables was just really slow family drama type stuff. And when you got the Fables moments, there were so few and far between, and they happened so quickly. Like the war that you build up to through 7 volumes takes place in an issue. And that's it, done. Move on, next story arc. And then they spend like another maybe 3 or 4 volumes building up to a fight like between the two main sisters, and then they just call it off. And I'm just like, no, this just like, if you love the artist and you love some of the styles and you can put up with the occasional time that it changes off the main artist, and you like just slice of life stories, and you're maybe going to read an issue or 2 a day, before you go to bed or something like that, then Fables could be a nice palate cleanser type thing to read. But it's not something I'd be telling people to like hunt down. It's not something that I've either been wowed by, that I'd be like, this is one of the most amazing things I've read, you should check out, or even really freaked out by and had like weird offensive moments and stuff like, say, Transmetropolitan, where I'm like, you should read that because it's so screwed up, you'll never get something else that kind of is that weird. This just kind of sits there in the middle and is like, and yeah, I got my girlfriend to read the first hardcover and she stopped. If that puts it in perspective, like she wouldn't even go past that.
Is it fantasy? It's like a fantasy genre, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the very basic premise is that something's happened in this sort of Fables world, that certain Fables have had to escape and create a little kind of haven in our world, but they can't let the humans see that they're Fables. So to begin with, you get a little bit of like how they're in the town and the magics and how they're hiding from the normies, as they call us, kind of thing, and that kind of thing's going on. And you learn like why certain people getting away with certain things, why certain people are not allowed to be around, and things like that. And there's some interesting twists of where they make like the Great North Wind is like the big bad wolf's dad, and that's why he has that gust of how he can blow so hard and like stuff like that. Like there's little things that like are interesting takes, but there's just so many other things that bored me. Like it just dragged on for so long. The artist changes weren't that fun. It had these like art outlines around the pages that was supposed to look like old school kind of nursery rhyme style books, but rather than it being designed across a 2-page spread, it was just repeated. So then in the gutter you had this weird offset where the pictures didn't match up, and like it was just, again, it's little things. But when you've spent about 1.5 years hunting something down to then read it, again, there's a lot of hype in your head, and then you get to it and you're like, so as I gave it maybe about half to just over half, and I've still got them just now because I've not been able to kind of take pictures and clear them all out and everything. But I plan on just kind of cleaning it. As it's, some things work, some things don't. Like Usagi, I tried and I really enjoyed. I highly recommend. Invincible, I hunted down in the hardcovers before they got reprints, and that was really good. Not something that I think is the best thing ever, but definitely something I'll read through at least once more. I don't think anything else like weird that I hunted down. I've got like the Ex Machina hardcovers rather than the omnibus, just because that omnibus is huge. It's not my favorite book ever, but it's probably one of my favorite Brian K. Vaughan books.
I was going to say, I was thinking it was Brian K. Vaughan, yeah. I haven't read it myself. Ex Machina. Is there just the one, or just the one omnibus? Or
it's one omnibus, or it's 5 Wildstorm hardcovers if you get the original prints.
Red Wright is saying he felt the same of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. All this hype, and I couldn't push through the 3 issues. Is Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, is that the one, like the first volume came out like ridiculously priced, like £24 for the Absolute?
The Absolutes were, yeah. But then there was a whole controversy around that as well, because they recolored it for the Absolutes. So the original standard sized hardcovers have the original colouring, and the Absolutes have recoloring. So there was a little bit of controversy back and forth there. But for me personally, it's just too heavy prose. Like, even as someone who likes crime noir type things that are sometimes sort of narration driven, there's narration that flows, and there's narration that's just describing the page panel for panel, section for section, and like this guy clearly is a really good prose writer. He's not a comic writer, in my personal opinion.
Alan Moore, we're talking here. Sorry.
Yeah. Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, or any of those kind of guys, in my personal opinion. I think if you like prose, you will really enjoy their books because you will get prose with gorgeous art. But if you're looking for the perfect comic, they're not really comic books.
I'm just waiting for Chris to comment here because he's a big Watchman and V for Vendetta and.
V for Vendetta is slightly different. V for Vendetta is slightly different. It's not quite as heavy on the narration side of things. But yeah, I mean, I said it's all the big ones. Like, you know, you take like Sandman or I mean, like, you know, Red Straw Hat got me to read Preacher, and again, like I read Preacher through. That's Garth Ennis did that one. That wasn't so heavy prose, but again, I just felt it was a little bit overrated, and some of the crudeness was just crude for crude's sake. You know, but then again, Garth Ennis likes that. Garth Ennis is one of these writers that wrote like Crossed, you know, so like he's not someone to hold these kind of punches. And I did a review on Preacher because I felt something changed slightly in the background of the story. Maybe I read more into it than I should have, but I took a very different take on Preacher's ending than some other people took. But again, I think that's interesting because people actually reviewing it and going in and talking about it is what makes these things more interesting to me. Like, I don't want to just see like 10 shiny embossed Berserk books on someone's shelf. I want you to tell me why I should read Berserk, you know?
Well, funny enough, my next book is Berserk. Shit, am I joking? It's not really. I like these Black Label stuff. Larry saying Fine Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, very satisfying, but I think it helps to have read the original series to really feel the huge plot twist Moore does with their origin. You really have to read the OG first. Swamp Thing's not something I've kind of really thought about ever reading, to be honest.
I kind of read it, but read it the other way around. I read the New 52 Swamp Thing, which kind of reverts back to the original way that Swamp Thing is. Yeah. So, like, basically, one version of Swamp Thing says that it's him converted into the Swamp Thing, and one version of Swamp Thing says that they created a copy of him out of plants, basically. And it switches between writers as to that's why there's been more than one Swamp Thing and why they don't have the memories of the previous runs and stuff like that. But it makes it really interesting for the story idea. I just personally couldn't get past the level of prose.
See, I've got the Bronze Age omnibus for Swamp Thing, and that covers. I'm assuming that covers what Larry's referring to. So, and I've also got the Absolutes of
which is the Alan Moore stuff that comes right after that, and then I think Nancy Collins comes after that. Is it? If I'm right.
It. But I've also got the trade paperback box set. So if anyone's after the original colours, they are in the trade paperback box set.
Nice.
So I'm invested in Swamp Thing.
Yeah. Okay, really popular character, but I couldn't get past that point on the Moore stuff. I read the Snyder Soul stuff through when I first got the Snyder hardcover, and then I read it through again as the whole thing when I got the omnibus. I quite liked the Soul bit at the end, to be honest. He goes a little bit wild with the different like avatars and stuff, to be honest. It felt like a Grant Morrison story in some ways. But yeah, I don't know. I'm the kind of person that gets burnt out of repeating the same kind of stories or tropes and stuff. So like I need to take a little bit of break from things. And by that point, I'd read like 3 Swamp Thing books in the space of like a year. So I just kind of took a step back.
Red Rider's asking, didn't they release a 4th Swamp Absolute that matches Moore's set?
Isn't that Len Wynn's?
Could possibly be.
Possibly, that'd be cool.
Bronze Age omnibus covers more. You get literally the full. I think to tell me if I'm wrong, I think you get the full, or right the way out to Alan Moore's run in that Bronze Age omnibus, where the Len Wynn one you only get his
own specific issues. Yeah. Okay.
We also have some YouTube royalty in the chat. We have Omar for Near Mint Condition, who's saying Fables is great. So disagrees with Larry and Highland G. I think that's pretty prominent in his collection. Those hardcovers, aren't they?
Omar is a massive fan of Fables and the creator. So yeah, I don't think anything would put him off of that. It's one of his favorites. But as I said, it's going to come down to how you read it as well. I think if you read it as like a few issues at a time, as a kind of light evening sort of slice of life style thing, you might enjoy it more. But I was again reading a lot of Fable-y things going into it before kind of getting up to that point. So I'd read like some Grimm fairy tales. I'd read some sort of Robin Hood with the other alternate spelling, where it's the girl with the kind of sliced eye and stuff. And I was expecting a little bit more kind of action, I guess, and what I got was slice of life. And yeah, it wasn't for me. But I think for younger readers that might want something a bit more kind of lighter fairy tale type things, it might be something they enjoy. But at that point, I'd say buy the compendiums, because the hardcovers are going to be impossible to get your hands on.
We are all getting complimented, our accents. Yeah, I don't have the best one. I think these guys sing well. These are more natural voices for the YouTube and radio. My aim for 2023 is just to be invited for Omar's end of year best reads of the year, because I was very jealous when Chris appeared on it last year. So I've already asked. There's my ask. Give me my want. There we go. I'll move on to complete my haul, because I have 5 more books here. I'm going to get through it quickly, and we'll discuss some more of our recent reads. So these Black Label books, the DC Black Label stuff, I can't remember who it is. Someone said they're picking them all up, and I thought, why am I not picking them all up? Because I like the format, but they're terrible in single issues, and obviously they're basically Elseworld kind of stories, aren't they? So you're gonna have a lot more things you could do with it. This is the Catwoman Lonely City, and again, is it written?
That's where it was the one guy that wrote and draw it, yeah.
Yeah, Cliff Chang. Yeah, because
the guy did Wonder Woman. Yeah,
done Wonder Woman. Yeah, so. Again, I don't know anything about the story myself. I've heard a lot of people talk about it and say it's very good. They really enjoyed it. But I do think I want to go back now and pick up all the Black Label stuff, because, like, I just like the format of the book. And I have a few of the single issues, like the Batman Damned, one of the Harley Quinn ones, and they're terrible to store in the like a short box or long box, whatever. So I really should.
It's one of those things as to why I keep going back to European books, because the European books have that format. It's almost like you get an extra sort of 2 or 3 panels in your page. It's pretty nice.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels this way, because I keep buying them as well. I don't even hesitate. As soon as I find out they're that magazine style, I buy them.
Yeah.
I've just ordered Lobo versus Superman and Suicide Squad Blaze.
Yeah, that's on my radar too.
Yeah. I mean, as long as there's not something that stands out that I'm kind of bored by, as I probably have mentioned a few times with things like, so say like if it was like was it Jeff Lemire did like a Joker one or something at one point, like I probably would have skipped over that.
Joker Killer Smile, is that one? I think.
Yeah, something like that. Like I would have just been like, yeah, another Joker book kind of thing. And it's the same with like all these. It seemed like these one shots recently, like One Bad Day stuff. Like, to be honest, to me personally, they feel like nice starting points for new readers, but cash grabs for old readers. So I'm kind of just like ignoring it.
I think that is what that is. It's a cash grab. It's obviously based on the Killing Joke type of thing. Like, what if you have One Bad Day? And I've heard they're very good.
I mean, if they collect them all in a deluxe hardcover for like 30 quid or something, I'll maybe buy it at that point. But I'm not buying individual hardcovers for each.
No, have you seen the one where it's like a box set? You buy, I think it's out in June. You could buy the Killing Joke and the first one, like with the box set, and then you obviously fill it in yourself with all the hardcovers.
They tried to do the same with Doomsday Clock, where they brought it out as half the book and then gave you a box set and stuff. It's like, just give us the one hardcover. Like, come on.
No, I bought that, but now I want the absolute.
Yeah.
So sort of wasting my money on that.
Just saying hello to Steve. He's picking up all the Black Label books as well. He loves the format. Again, I think with
I've
Black
got a few I need to pick up, especially anything by like Darborn Johnson. I've not picked up any of that yet, so that's my next kind of, I think, rabbit hole to go down.
Is it, what's Wonder Woman called?
Dead Earth.
Dead Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to get that and just everything else that he's got in deluxe so far. So
I still think the standout for me is Harleen, and that was one of the first ones that came out. Like, Harleen was a phenomenal read. Batman. The second one out.
Batman Down.
Batman Down was the first one out, and that was on with the Batwang, and that's where I got all the kind of headlines because they showed his Todger. But the actual story itself was
I mean, Cedric writes these sort of perfect relationship stories. I'm a massive fan of his Sunstone series about the two girls who are the kind of like BDSM kind of friends, and like it's not something very many people talk about, but it's like his main biggest thing that he's ever kind of done. He does 2 hardcovers of it, and he's on to like a 3rd arc of it kind of now.
What?
Um,
I was going to say he doesn't do any. He won't go to mainstream Marvel or DC any longer. But
No, so this is an Image thing. It's
Is it
been doing
Image?
for years. So as I say, it's called Sunstone, and he's done like 5 arcs of it as Sunstone, and now he's on to an arc that's called Mercy, which is about a slightly different couple, and he's building a universe basically of these characters, and they live in this world where basically their hobby or the thing they're interested in is BDSM related things, and these 2 girls meet through this sort of web chat rooms type thing, and kind of meet up as friends to kind of talk about their hobby and kind of stuff like that. And it eventually builds up into a relationship between the 2 of them, and they have to kind of deal with this whole thing of, are they friends or are they just wanting to further the hobby kind of thing, or do they have a relationship and all that kind of stuff. But it gets really sexually driven, but it's not pornographic, and it gets really emotionally driven as well. Like you follow these characters on a journey all the way through your tears as they're like breaking up or getting back together, or there's really subtle things throughout the pages where you'll have like puzzle pieces of things kind of like on a page which will refer to a puzzle that someone was doing in a previous panel or something, and there's just, it's, the detail is amazing. I've got a review on my channel of like the first book. It's probably like 4 years old at this point, and I do plan on redoing one on the 2 books. But honestly, like it's one of my favorite books ever, and that's for somebody who basically spends half his time reading crime noir. Like these relationship written stories are amazing, and you might come in for like the lesbian girl story, but you will leave like in tears over these women's relationship. Like it is just so well told.
It sounds like something that.
And then he took that to Harleen, and that just blew me away. Like the relationship writing and stuff in that is amazing.
See, I can't believe I haven't read the Harleen yet. I need to set a time for it. I've got it. I've owned it since it first came out. I've just never got stuck into it. So I think it's one I've got to pull the trigger on sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's the origin story of, you know, of Harley meets Joker in the asylum, but it's just done in such a way that, again, if you think of it like the Turtles in modern kind of terms, where you've added an actual relationship into there, you've added actual manipulation into there, and the way he draws every sort of like nod, wink, look is important. So like you might have the Joker say something to Harley, and then like she looks away, and then you see his face and you see what he actually thinks without him saying anything, and like stuff like that. It's just, it's really well done.
Sorry, folks, my internet is playing funny buggers again. I did warn everyone at the start of the show. So I missed.
And he was going to do an Ivy book after the Harley one. Sorry, but he never.
Yes, that's something that really annoyed me, because
it happened when he decided not to work for Marvel anymore. But there is, if you pick up Harley Red, White, and Black, a short that does like one issue beyond Harleen that he did in the Red, White, and Black.
Because see, like I've been giving some comics to my friend who's not a comic book guy, and I gave him Batman Hush recently, and he commented on the art, more like importantly the Poison Ivy scenes. Like obviously she's a good looking woman, but she looks phenomenal in Batman Hush. So think about this and how he liked that kind of get him wanting to read those books. That Stefan Sajic, Harleen looked incredible. Imagine we got a Poison Ivy book. Like, I feel like we've been completely not let down.
If you followed him on Instagram, he showed some of the concept art for it, and that made it even worse.
Yeah,
because it was so good.
We should have got that.
Like, because the thing is, he creates through art, and this is also what I find really interesting about him as a kind of creator. Is like he writes through his art. So when he's creating things, he'll talk to all the people, interview, learn all the stuff about the people and stuff around that he's creating. But then he'll draw a couple of key scenes and extrapolate from them to create arcs, rather than writing an arc and then trying to draw it. So if he has an emotional moment or a feeling or something he wants to convey, that's what he's drawing first. So like even at the back of the Sunstone books, there's like so many stories that he hasn't told that he's got like all these little pictures and sketches and stuff in the back of possible stories that are like so much more than a sketch that a normal artist would put in the back of something, because every sketch has an idea behind it. And I'm always jealous of someone that can draw something in like an afternoon anyway. Like, that's just mental.
I can't remember, but I've obviously read the hardcover. I probably have seen the Ivy concept now, but I feel like I need to go back and look at it just to see. But yeah, we're definitely missing out. That's something as fans we're all missing out on, definitely.
But I loved his older work as well. Like I say that he used to just do the art side of things. So if you go back to the early Top Cow Image stuff, he did a lot of the Aphrodite stuff and stuff around that sort of time period. So I've got a lot of his work from back then when he wasn't writing. But when it came into Sunstone and he started writing himself, like as I said, I can't talk that book up enough. As long as you're old enough to read something of that context. Yeah.
Did he have a fallout with somebody at DC? Is that what it was? Was there an issue with like working?
I think it was just demand.
Grind.
Because, I mean, I think like a lot of people, like working at home, doing your own thing, there's a lot of stresses and depression and other things that kind of go on. And when you lose control and you feel like you're just being demanded by somebody to put an output, it gets to a certain point where you want to kind of walk away from that. And I think he was used to some of the freedoms he had with Top Cow, that when he started doing Marvel and DC stuff, he enjoyed the characters but didn't enjoy the sheer sort of demand on him. And some people can do that and some can't. So he was like, well, I'd rather finish the 3 or 4 stories of my own stuff, and protect my sanity, than try and take on too much. So like he's going to go back and do a couple of arcs of other books that he hadn't finished, like Death Vigil and stuff like that. Rather than continuing into Marvel and DC, where he feels somebody else could pick up the kind of mantle.
But I wonder though, will he always have that stance, or will it change? I mean, the reason why I'm saying that is because
I mean, there's always a chance he comes back in 5 to 10 years' time if he's at that point.
Hickman at the minute, who obviously had the X-Men kind of resurgence, whatever, the whole Krakoa era, and obviously he left the book because everyone else wanted to stay writing their X-Men books. He wanted to kind of conclude the story. But he's now doing a 4-issue event. I can't think what it's called. It's only announced a few days ago. But I get the impression with him, he's happy to just once a year do like a 4-issue book or something, whatever else. And it almost like takes the pressure off him to. There's no need to create something fantastic. Just do your little event once a year.
And I think that's the thing. If he could create this Ivy book in the background with nobody knowing that he's making it,
and then just
it just gets given to DC in 2 years' time, and they can release it however they want,
because it won't be the first time. Sorry,
I think that would be the way to do it.
Yeah. So I was going to say, it wouldn't be the first time I've heard it mentioned about the pressures from the big two to artists and writers, some unrealistic timeframes. And with something like that, of that level, just as you say, sit back and let the guy do his thing. If it's 2 years down the line, it's 2 years down the line.
If you have the energy to do it, if you're like Dan Mora and you're young and you have the drive and energy to do it, and you can just burst out through stuff, then like he's at that point where he can just go all out. He's literally, for Boom and for DC, like their character design guy. So he does all their main covers, all their main character designs. If Power Rangers needs a new character, if a wrestler needs a new character, if whatever it is, Boom just calls him in, he draws the character design, and then the artist takes over from there. It's like they don't trust their own artists to create something because Dan always comes in and does it. But since DC got their hands on it, they've done the same thing. DC redrew half their characters with Dan Mora and got new costumes for the Superman family and so on and so forth, and just got him to do them all.
Wasn't he the one that drew like the key art sort of display of the characters that were coming in Dawn of DC?
Yes, he was.
He drew the lot.
Yeah. He's done the current, Turtles, Power Rangers, whatever it is, that crossover. Like he's on World's Finest. Yeah, exactly. One of the only reasons that Wade's back with DC. It's crazy. Like he's doing so much stuff, but I think he has that energy for whatever reason. He has that energy right now, whereas people even like Donny Cates have taken to the point where they've went, no, I can't take it.
Just want to say hello to Connie. Connie, I noticed during the chat earlier on, but my internet was playing up. But she's saying the same thing. She's heard creators talking on podcasts about bad experiences with the big two. how they run things, and I think you're right. I think eventually the demand is so, like the grind is there, but it's just like,
You want to do the characters, but
Yeah.
it's not worth your own emotional burnout.
yeah, and that's why we're getting such quality indie books, because they're keeping all their best ideas for that as well.
I think that's what
so
the
they
Black
can-
Label books work as well, the shorter ones, because they're not under
Yeah.
demand for so long.
Exactly. If I remember this well, the Harleen one, I think he did say it was like a passion project of his as well, and he was able to have the time to do it because, like what you're saying, like they had so many titles lined up for Black Label to start, but that was one of them. Where now it's more, it's like the label's going, it's rolling. We need the books out now, as opposed to in 6 months, a year from now, we're going to release these books. Can you get something ready for that?
And they had to come out in issues, and they had this whole rollout, and whereas I think now they could almost have some creators just create things in the background, and once they're done, just release them as graphic novels on Black Label.
Yeah, the same way as what like Brubaker and Sean Phillips do. Just release that title on its own. Don't release them in 3 books. Just release that magazine.
Especially with what you guys are saying, is it doesn't fit well on the shelves. I don't buy many singles anyway, but if I did buy singles, I wouldn't buy them of weird shaped books because they don't fit in my display. Like,
see, I don't mind the shape of the magazine hardcovers because they go quite all right on the shelf.
for the hardcovers, but I'm not going to take a whole bunch of singles that don't fit in my short box.
No. I'm not a singles guy, so it's I've got a few singles for covers, but I'm more collected editions.
I can't seem to shake the singles. I'm trying my best to cut my singles down just to collect the collected editions, but it's a tough one because there's still some good stuff coming out.
I tend to get suckered in by the art, or I want to try something that's by a publisher that is not as tried and tested, and I just don't know if a trade's going to come out. So then I end up buying like 5 singles of some random samurai book, more than like, that I don't know if I'm going to like until I've got the 5th book or whatever, because I buy the whole thing through and read it as one.
I just want to move on. I have 3 more books to show, and then we could talk.
Cool.
Let the tangents go on. Spider-Gwen. We mentioned this earlier on. The only reason I actually picked this up was because my daughter's been watching like Spidey and His Amazing Friends. She's been watching the Spider-Verse animated movie. And I feel like I bought this for her. So at some stage, whenever my kids roll off the collection, this is here for her. I want to read it myself too, don't get me wrong. But I think that's the only reason why I pulled the trigger before this goes out of print. And I think it probably will at some stage, I'd imagine. Especially with it has one out of print already.
I think it has. Don't hold me to that. I'm not sure if it's in Omar's reprint or not, but
because this has been dropping in price the last little while, and this was an Amazon purchase. It was like, I can't remember the price for it. It was the cheapest it's been in a while, and I just pulled the trigger. The only thing I will say about it, I don't know how much you like care about this, but the book feels slightly lopsided. I don't know. It's not the showing camera. Like it's leaning to one side, like the spine. Can you see it slightly? So it in this bit it dips down the way here, so it's like
maybe.
You almost have like force it up. I don't know if that matters. Will it make a difference? Probably not. But I thought to myself, is it a bit lopsided?
That's probably how it's stored. I think when you crack it open and you stretch it out a little bit, you'll be okay.
That's what I'm hoping for, but I'm not going to return it or anything like that. So
sometimes they just glue it in slightly, like a slight off angle, like it.
Sorry guys, just need 1 second.
But I want to get into that, and there's a Spider-Gwen book coming out, I think, in a few months' time. I just mute Martin here because he's probably going to tell somebody off. So yeah, I also picked up DC Dark Knight. Well, didn't pick this up. This was a birthday gift. DC Dark Knight's Metal.
I was so happy that I went for the standard one of that, because when they released the DM with the colored in cover, I didn't like it.
No, I like the pencil sketch.
The sketch looks so nice.
It looks so cool, and that's why I pre-ordered the sketch. And I remember it was actually Martin sent me the link to this, because I had the pre-order for Forbidden Planet. I says to my wife, I said, this for my birthday. Do you want to pick it up for me and give it to me as a gift? She says yes. And it was the sketch variant. But then Martin has seen this so much cheaper.
We were discussing that you can get it on Speedy Hen for like 20 quid cheaper. Yeah,
so got this instead, and it's such a far better cover. And you're right, that variant that came out colored, it does not look nice at all.
No. They
should have kept the sketch, to be honest. But the RRP in this as well is stupid. Like really daft. Like it's like 150, I want to say. $150, and like it's not that big. Like it's not as thick as Spider-Gwen, and bear in mind DC's paper quality is slightly thicker than Marvel's.
It's literally because it's an event book and it's got Scott Snyder's name on it.
It's just ridiculously priced. But yeah, happy to have it. I read Metal. I read it in the singles. It was actually I jumped into comics whenever Metal was just coming out, so I had to go back a month or two and trace all the back issues for it.
I've read the Metal event, but and a couple of like tie-in issues, but I've never read the whole thing. So I'm actually looking forward to reading the complete kind of thing. So I've read a lot more tie-ins for Death Metal than I did for Metal. I
read them all myself at the time, but I want to go back and read it in this way, in this manner, and just kind of absorb it all again. And the last thing I picked up, other than the Daredevil that Martin's already shown off, is
the same yellow cover.
Yeah, is the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Volume 2. So I
how big is that? Is that the omnibus?
Yeah. That's the omnibus. That came out just earlier.
That wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad size. I think they're releasing them in a good sort of. They're not too fat. They're not. You know,
I was worried they were going to go for
like
like the new Avengers one, you know, where like it's just stupid.
No, these are a nice. These are a nice size.
So the same thickness as the Metal omnibus.
That's not bad. Yeah, 2 or 3 hardcovers is okay.
Yeah. The for our end of year chat, if you recall, I picked the Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 as my read of 2022. Because I absolutely loved that. It was fantastic. And Volume 2 is here. Volume 3 is coming in a few months. And I think there's a bit of issues with how they're going to collect the series out. But I'm just here to enjoy the ride up until then. But really enjoy that. Looking forward to it.
I still think they're going to release it under the same title as the original Omni release. But they're going to do what Omar's mentioned before about putting the volume number on the back.
Yeah.
And maybe putting 5 on it. So
see, when he said that about the Captain America books, I was like, no, don't give me that. Assuming he meant the spine, because that would really annoy me if he put like Volume 4 and 5 on the spines of the new ones coming later this year for the Cap books. But if it's in the back, it's fine.
It's in the same sort of idea as the Epic collections.
Yeah, what they do in the DC books now is they tend to give the trades anyway. They give it like a subtitle, so they give like the arc a name. And then they put the volume number. There's like a lower third of the back that they make all black, and they give like a little synopsis, and it'll say like Volume 5 or whatever there. At the very bottom.
Yeah, so for the Flash, I thought it was 17, but couldn't see it on the spine. But this is called Eclipsed. But you're right, so they'll have Volume 17 on the back.
Yeah, which is great if you see it in the physical shop, but if you're looking it up on the website, it's a pain in the butt because it still just gets called by the name of the book and not the number. Yeah,
it is a pain actually. You're right. But yeah, that's
especially for the Flash, because the Flash had a year 1 volume that was in the middle of its Williamson run, and I still don't know what volume that's actually supposed to be because I haven't bought it yet.
Hang on, I'll have the answer for you on that one. Carry on.
While you're searching that up, Martin, the House of Nerds show, saying hey all, how are you?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my haul. That's quite a significant haul, I think, for the month of February.
Have you cracked open any of it?
No. That's the sad part. There's not like I haven't. But no, I actually was my birthday there this past Sunday, so I was waiting for this show to showcase it. The first thing I want to read is The Flash, to be honest, just because it's easy, because it's a trade paperback as well. But The Flash, even for my recent read, I talked about Volume 16, like that. It's a good jumping on point for Flash readers, and if you do quite like Wally West, like this is it. Like the Joshua Williamson run, I would like to read. I'd like to go back and read now, but I'm happy to start here as my kind of Flash journey, whatever you want to call it. But this has made me like the Flash, and I thought the Flash was a daft character. Basically, what the recent run is that Wally West, who wants to kind of retire, he wants to give it up. Go be a husband, go be a father. He wants to give up this superhero life. So him and Barry are going to enter the Speed Force and try and remove him from the Speed Force. But turns out he gets trapped in it, and there's a problem with the Speed Force, and he needs to go back and fix it. And it's almost like Quantum Leap, where he's gone back in time into various like former Flash like bodies or whatever. He even goes, like you mentioned Nazis earlier on. There's a part where he goes back and fights Hitler, but it's done really well, and it's just really entertaining, really good, and it's really heartfelt. And I'm not going to spoil anything else other than that. But the whole Heroes in Crisis thing, if you've read that and know how that what happened, how that ends, this goes back and it makes you like, if you're a grown man who has never cried before, you will be close to crying. I would say this is really heartwarming, really sad, but really good. And obviously now Wally West is back as the main Flash, and I'm looking forward to this volume 17. But Flash is my it's a character I never thought I would like. I used to give Scott stick because I used to say Cyborg was the better member of the Justice League, but nah, the Flash is great.
I love the Flash.
See, I never liked early Flash stuff. It was never something that kind of was kind of connecting to me. A lot of the time, especially Barry Allen stuff, just never really connected with me at all. It wasn't until I read the Jeff Johns run Wally West that I was like, oh, okay, Flash is quite cool. And it was more because in that run as well, he's kind of a mechanic and trying to be a normal everyday person with a family and stuff like that, rather than like, I don't know, Barry Allen almost came across as this almost too perfect guy who just like can do everything, has this perfect like job, has this perfect wife, like blonde hair, blue eyed, like it was too much.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get this guy who's a little bit flawed, can screw up, can get a little bit over boosted as well. And just how he connected with the Speed Force as well, like being able to do things like absorb people's connections to get a better connection himself and stuff like that. Like in Barry's early runs, none of that was explored.
Yeah.
So what I feel the Williamson run is like a really good reintroduction to Barry, but with all the Easter eggs and things that were added during Wade and John's Wally run that Barry never had in his mythos before. So then that sets you up for modern Wally, and they fit together, because if you only know old school Barry, he doesn't really fit with modern Wally because he can't do all the weird Speed Force things that Wally can. And if he just copies them with no backstory to it, it doesn't make sense. You can't just go, oh, he's the first Flash, therefore he can do it. Like that doesn't, work. So it's cool when they did that. And one of the really cool things in the Williamson run, which I never noticed until I actually watched an interview with him, was that he gave each of the Flashes a different colored lightning to indicate how connected to the Speed Force they are and how fast they are. So the new Wally gets red because he's the least connected. Barry gets yellow because he generates the Speed Force, and Wally gets white or like a really light gold, because he has the ultimate connection and can drain and connect the Speed Force to anything.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's little things.
That's the thing. I'm only starting off to get into the Flash, and it's even like you mentioned the Jeff Johns one. I haven't read that. My introduction more to like Wally West was the stuff he mentioned earlier on, Heroes in Crisis. Flash Forward.
There's 3 new omnibuses, but you only really need the 2 because the third one's kind of like leading up to Flashpoint. But the 2 reprint omnibuses are so good. But
the problem I had with Barry Allen, it's similar to what you're saying. Like everything, he was like too good and too clean.
It's like
or
Superman
something.
For me. Sometimes it's just too perfect.
But it made his he has quippy moments, obviously when he's in the suit and he's fighting and whatever. It didn't fit with the character of Barry Allen because like you're not that. That's not what you are. So Wally West had that. He was obviously a bit younger. As you say, a lot of flaws and things like that. So as the reader, you're getting it makes more sense. There's things he comes off with. Whereas thought with Barry Allen, it just didn't fit well with me. I didn't like it.
Barry's also got this idol about him, though. Even for Wally, Wally's looked up to Barry.
Yeah,
I think that's for a lot of these like first characters in anything. Like even if people have their own mantle, and I love a lot of like what would be considered the sort of secondary characters or the titans within kind of the era of things. That Nightwing can be Nightwing because Batman's in the limelight. Even if Batman was to die and Nightwing was to take his place as Nightwing, he will never have the pressure that Batman has because he didn't create that, even if he is in the cowl. So it's the same with Wally taking over from Barry. Like in some ways, he can have more fun with it because he's not this god that people are looking to be perfect. He can be fallible in a way.
See, I can't help but I do like Barry. but I have to admit my connection to Barry goes from my first introduction to Flash was watching the Wesley John Ship 90s Flash when I was a kid. So I've just had that connection to that character. Obviously, like many of us, we've watched Justice League Unlimited and stuff like that. So we've seen Wally as Flash. So I like both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I really like By in the Williamson run. I think he was done really well in the Williamson run, and it kind of sets him up to be almost Wally's mentor in a way, more than just like the last Flash.
And you say about the third volume of John's run, I did get the third volume because it's the only way you can get the 12-issue build up to Flashpoint, which was his, which was a 12-issue series. In oversized hardcover, not oversized.
Yeah, because there was 3 little runs that they put in there. They put in like I think it was like the original like Wild Wests or something run. There's like a little bit with like I forget something else into like the future type stuff, and then there's a lead up to Flashpoint, and there's like a Rogues little arc in there as well. I think if I remember correctly, like maybe spotlighting 1 or 2 of the Rogues, but it feels more like a collection of stuff leading up to Flashpoint than the first 2 omnibus are like one complete story, like as a flowing kind of story.
Because I've got the Flashpoint omnibus as well.
It's nice they collected it, because the first time round they didn't. The first time the first 3 omnibuses were printed, it only collected what's in the first 2 omnibuses. So this third one is new content as far as oversized.
Well, this is why I'm quite happy, because starting from that first John's omnibus, it takes you right up beyond Flashpoint. So it takes you into the New 52, and then you've got the Manipole, Francis Manipole omnibus that kicks us straight off. It's just a shame we've got nothing past the Manipole run.
Yeah, so you only got the first half of that run. Yeah,
we're missing the back end of the Flash from New 52, and then we've got nothing but Deluxe.
Personally, I wasn't a big fan of that whole introducing the new Wallace West stuff, so I would quite happily skip New 52 and go straight to Rebirth with the Flash.
For a Flash completionist, though, I want it all. I've got them in trades. I have all Flash in trades. But I want them all.
But then do you have all the tie and stuff? Do you have like Heroes in Crisis and Flash Forward and all that stuff then as well? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Scott he's not asking for much. He's like, if someone could give him the Flashpoint Omni, that would be great.
And do you have any input?
Where you can
do you have any Impulse stuff?
No. I stayed away from the Impulse trade that they brought out because it was just like a one-off, and then they weren't going to continue it, and I didn't want to pick up.
My one tiny worry with them doing this Wade Omnis is that they won't include the Grant Morrison bit in the middle.
I have the trade for that.
I just hope they just include it in the Omnis.
I hope they do, because then I can let the trade go. But
because it'd be so annoying to have like 5 omnibus and one little trade in the middle for Grant Morrison.
Yes, Scott, I am missing Volume 12. It is hard to get hold of. I'm just praying to God that we're going to get Joshua Williamson's running omnibus.
We're bound to. I would suggest, like, once Stacey get their act together, that would be one of the first ones they would do.
They should finish the deluxe editions. I have 3 of them.
Is there 5 in total? 5 or 6?
I don't know how many it would take, but
for Flash, there'll be loads because he goes up to sort of
90
something issues. 90 issues.
It's like 12, 13 trades, something like that. No, what trade are you on? 16.
16.
So 15 trades of like 4 issues of trades.
Yeah,
that's like 50 issues or so, right?
I'm not sure what number, because they're back to legacy numbering on the trade paperbacks. I'm not really sure.
I reckon they could probably do another 3 to 4 hardcovers if they were to do the deluxes to finish it off.
But they still haven't finished Tom King deluxe editions of Batman. They're so far behind.
I thought
maybe they've just recently finished it, but they're so far behind.
I thought they changed the spine for like the 3rd time, but still finished it.
Just
because he was the only one that got his run finished. Everybody else has got cut off.
Yeah, they were literally they were begged to release that, wouldn't they? And they released it.
But it just seems like such a kick in the teeth to the Green Arrow fans and the Flash fans who started the runs and deluxes.
And I would have bought all that because I've just finished all the trades. I've bought all the trades for the Williamson Green Arrow run because I'm not hopeful I'm going to get an omnibus anytime soon. And the deluxes never got made.
Well, that's my thing, and I don't want to miss out on it because, as we were mentioning a little bit kind of earlier with like the sort of Supergirl's stuff like the New 52 and things has never been given an omnibus. I'm glad I do have that in trades because I couldn't read it again.
Yeah.
And you would not be able to buy the trades now for a decent price.
You can't. I started collecting mine probably about 10 years ago, and as I went off comics for a little bit, I tried going back a few years where I started picking up the hobby again. I couldn't get half stuff. I wanted Red Lanterns, the new Guardians run that go alongside the rest of the new 52 Green Lantern stuff.
Yeah, one volume of the Blue Spine.
Oh god, yeah.
But I'll take Blue Spines if they complete the run. Like if
Me just not having the deluxe editions. Whilst I would like you to complete your collection, I just think the omnibus to come out and I'll buy it and read it from there.
I do.
Well, that or is if they do the omnibus to be the size of the first 3 hardcovers, so that I don't have to buy the first omnibus.
Yeah, that's true. That'll be something. But maybe DC will get their act together and do that. But let's not hold our breath because they haven't proved to be willing to even, regularly release these hardcovers.
Really random what they seem to be bringing out as and when. I mean, this metal omnibus has only just come out. Scott Snyder promised on Twitter 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And the Green Lantern Corp omnibus was 6 or 7 years ago. That was mentioned by Tomasi.
Yeah, so we'll get a Red Lantern omnibus in 10 years' time.
See, my hope for DC where they're going is because you think last year they focused a hell of a lot on reprints. We got a lot of reprints of stuff that's been gone for a while. Grayson,
Catwoman.
Catwoman.
Yeah, and they did bring out some new stuff with the Catwoman was the first omnibus print of the Brubaker Catwoman, and the No Man's Land 3 were new omnibuses.
Sleeper as well. That was a reprint, wasn't it? A few months back.
Sleeper was a reprint under a Black Label, yeah. They've done a few of his
Vampire.
ones. American Vampire got reprint for the first one, and the second one got its first print.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only things I can think of is that we haven't got is the new Teen Titans, the continued reprints.
Yeah, they stopped that at 5 for some reason, and now I'm in a weird limbo where I have 1 and 5.
No, we haven't had the Batman Nightfall Omnis reprinted either. 1, 2, and 3.
Not for a while, no. They seem to randomly do the Nightfall ones.
And the only other one I know of is Gail Simone's Wonder Woman. That's not been reprinted. That was they came out very quick.
Yeah, they're weird with Gail Simone stuff. She doesn't seem to get a lot of her stuff in collected editions. Same with Chuck Dixon, which is really weird because they're both big DC players. You would have expected her Sinister Six and her Birds of Prey and so on to have oversized, but it's not.
I paid a lot of money. It's the most money I've spent on an omnibus, that one. Gail Simone's
Wonder Woman?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the most I spent on that.
So I shouldn't tell you that I bought it, read it, and flipped it before I even knew it was out of print.
It's still on my shelf.
Yeah, so I bought it undercover, read it and sold it, made my review. I wasn't that chuffed, so I don't think I even put the review up. But I'd done all of that, and then I think about a week later, everybody was like, "I can't get my hands on this book," and I was like, "Crap, I should have kept that." The thing with me again with Gail Simone stuff is I enjoy her stories, but it's not necessarily something that I'm going to come back to time and time again. So I've mentioned to you guys a few times where I've read things through in trades, and then I've felt the need to upgrade it to an omnibus, but then on the second read through, I've just not really justified the omnibus staying on my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because I try to force myself to read things within about 6 months of buying them, so that I'm actually going through my shelf on a rotation, and it's not just building more and more stuff on my shelf. I have a lot more times where I'm like, I've read this now. Do I really need to kind of keep that? It's just taking up space for the next thing.
I just find if I really like a character, I like to own everything that is out of it. That's just me as a collector.
Yeah, you can get. I mean, you can get compulsive about anything, but I think that's where sometimes you almost have to make it deliberately staggered, and that way, I don't really get as bad about it. I say my Usagi stuff. I've got random books of different sizes of different kind of stuff. It doesn't really match up, or I've got. I was reading New 52 Nightwing at the same time as I was buying the Chuck Dixon trades that were getting reprinted, and those runs were, I don't know, 15, 20 years apart with a whole bunch of other stuff in between them. And because I just read them as two completely separate stories, not as one ongoing arc, I kind of force myself to think of them as separate things, because I don't want to have like Tomasi's trade sitting on my shelf that I know is crap. Like, why? Just to have a complete shelf? Like, what am I really getting out of that?
It's with certain characters that I feel that way, that I want the complete run.
Yeah, but it doesn't exist if it's rubbish, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that run's now gone from the brain. like it didn't happen. Like in a, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a weird thing. But with chatting with Phil over comics a lot over the last maybe year or so about different things, he talks about his library of books and not his collection, and he's really reluctant to get rid of anything in the case he might like it down the line and so on and so forth. But him raising that question to me, or that topic of like, do you think about it as a library or do you think it was a collection, actually made me go the opposite way, because I was like, well, if it's my library, if it's my things I come back to, like my computer games or my movies, if I'm not going to come back to it, I don't keep it. If it's a collection that I'm trying to have 100% of Nightwing and I'm never going to pick it up again, and it's just something to show off in videos, then I'll have complete collection of certain things and then just stop collecting once I've got the full collection. So he actually made me think the opposite way. I was actually like, well, no, I'd much rather have an incomplete Nightwing collection and be reading other random Humanoids books or whatever, than not have that shelf space or have stuff stacking up on the floor. And then I've always been pretty good at cleaning out things, like to the point where most people talk about their partners stopping them buying stuff. My partner questions me when I sell things.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm so active to sell and clear out stuff. She'll be like, don't sell this, as mine, you can't touch that one, or whatever it is. You know, like,
You're right about the whole compulsive thing. Like, for example, like Spider-Man. Like, I know Spider-Man isn't for everyone, and not every run is good. But I feel like the compulsive need to collect.
to read it
every
once,
omnibus.
I completely get you. But once you've read it, if you know there's a bad run in there, do you really want it on your shelf?
But if you're that type of collector, and you've got a complete collection, you think, oh, that run there is not that great, I'm not going to read it again.
Yeah,
If you're not in that way of being able to easily go, that's all right, I'll just throw it one aside, it's not that great.
Yeah.
Knowing that it goes, I think with Marvel, I'll be okay with it, because just be honest, Marvel reprint stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But if it's DC, you know, I'm very hesitant to let something go of DC. See, like I bought the Deadman omnibus. I don't know a lot about Deadman. Am I going to read it? Like, sitting back now, I don't know, maybe not. But do I want to let it go because I know I'll never get it again? DC's my biggest problem.
I mean, you can always get something in digital at some form, some or another. There's always a way to reread that story. And I say I completely understand if you've never read them and you want to have the complete run to read through. If you want to read that character's complete kind of story, because I would argue for anybody, you know, that these characters are real within their universes and they have stories and they have changes and things happen and we go on that journey with them, and that's why we get so annoyed when things are changed, because you're changing a character who has history, you know, like that I completely understand. But in the same sense of, like, I'm a huge Wally West fan, unless I end up reading this run that Phil was talking about and it corrects Heroes in Crisis, I'm not going to own Heroes in Crisis on my shelf. I know what happened, I've read it, you know, I'm not missing out on it, but I just don't need it on my shelf.
What I'll say with Heroes in Crisis in this instance, I had the single issues, not the hardcover or even the trade, but I want to go back and buy the hardcover now. So that's why it's important to read this Flash run.
But as I said, like, it's all a matter of your perspective at the time, and he might come back to doing that. But I've never sold anything that I haven't been able to buy back or have felt that bad, because I mean, you guys, you know how many books are on your shelf that you've not read.
Mm-hmm.
So
90%.
Yeah.
So when one or two disappear, you've still got 100 books to try and read through in the next year.
That's
so,
the kind of,
you know, it's less pressure rather than more. Like, that's
the mindset I'm trying to get into now when it comes to pre-ordering and buying things. Now, like, yes, I would love to have it, but am I really going to get around to reading it anytime soon? So I don't pick it up unless I can find it cheap. Or cheaper, I should say.
Set yourself a budget. Don't pay over cover. All that kind of stuff.
That's what it is. And if I miss out on it and it's out of print, it will come back at some point down the line, and maybe then I'll be in a position to buy it and actually read it. as soon as it comes out. But like these books I've got here today, all 10 of them, they're not going to be read this month. Like I got 4 Omnis. It takes me ages to read an omnibus, and like say the Spider-Gwen, I can't read it until I read Spider-Geddon and whatever else. So it's like I'm not going to be reading it anytime soon. I only grabbed that because it's going to go to print, and it was cheaper.
But they can go around the community as well. I mean, like I sold Adam my Shadowland omnibus after reading it. You know, he wanted a complete collection. I only wanted to read the story once.
So was that sorry, Daredevil? Was it sorry, Shadowlands?
Yeah, Daredevil Shadowland. Yeah.
That's gonna be one of my reprint lists, I think.
You know, he just you know paid the postage and shipped it over to him basically. But you know, like there's no, I don't see the point in. But then, see, at the end of the day, like space is probably one of my biggest factors. I'm in a limited space, and space is even more important than the money that I get back. So you know, I'm not going to hold on to something just because it's worth something either. You know, like if I can have the space, then the space is worth so much more to me than that extra 40 quid I might get for holding on to a book.
Yeah,
I think that's a problem we all suffer with. All of us collectors have the issue of space. Space is our biggest issue. I would love to own everything. I'd have no issue owning everything, but can I store it anywhere?
Do you know, like, everyone has these, like, dreams, whatever. Like, what would you do if you win the lottery? Do you know the first thing I say to my wife? Like, well, if we won the lottery this week, I say, well, I'll build a house and have a separate room, like a library, top to ceiling shelves all around, all 4 walls, and I would literally own every single omnibus. I would never read them all, but I would like to just have them on the shelf. So if I have a little, urge to read Batman or Superman or whoever, I'll just pick it up. That's everyone's dream, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we all try and live that dream without actually winning the lottery. That's the problem. We're trying to live that life, but not have the millions of pounds or dollars on our pockets. And Larry's saying the same thing. It's another problem I have too. He almost never rereads. I almost never reread something, but yet I want to keep the stuff I love. I probably need some help. There's a bit of a problem that all of us have, and I'm the same. I hate parting with stuff. Like Jay, I've watched on haul videos and they're good to watch, but like sometimes I think, okay, like could I part with that? It's like no. Like don't get me wrong, like, those Buffy library editions, for example, they got you a good return.
Yeah.
But you will never be able to buy them again. So you have to know for certain that you were willing to let them go.
Yeah.
So again, what I done there was I sold the ones that I least enjoyed first, just to kind of temper the water, see if I was willing to kind of do that for the value kind of thing. And I've kept the Angel and Faith arc ones because I actually really enjoyed those. So they're not going anywhere regardless of the value.
So you have a split up then, the kind of run as such as your
Yes, all the Buffy named ones I've sold or are currently for sale. All the Angel and Faith branded ones I still have. I just much preferred that run. I felt that in the comics, Faith's character was the truest one to the TV show. So that was the one that I enjoyed the most. So even though, again, I'm missing the season 8 lead up to that story, I know it, so I can just jump in at that point.
Buffy's not something I've read. I think I've said before many times that I love the show, and I wasn't in the comics whenever, these.
I think it's one of those things that became a big demand thing. It's like when anything sells out or goes out of print, people then start getting all this hype around it.
Yeah.
I must have it. I must buy it. I must, And have you read it? Do you have any fandom in it? Is it something you even like, or are you just chasing that dragon? Like, like we need to sometimes just like step back and take a second, like before doing certain stuff. It's why I like pre-ordering in a way that I'm not charged and I can cancel it before it comes out, and I can create wish lists and I can curate those wish lists over time. And as I said, like all my comics are not hidden away in a room somewhere. Like my comic collection is actually in my living room space. I walk past it every day. I see how much spillover I have or don't have at any time. That's all to force my hand a little bit, and more recently, like as hobbies change, you have to make space for stuff. So I sold a lot of gaming stuff to make space for my comic stuff. Over the last, I don't even know however many weeks, I've been doing nothing but printing little bits of plastic, right? So when you print all these random little things, they then take up all this space. And now I'm going to have to get rid of some of my random little figures and stuff that I've got on display, which will get me back money, which is great. But there's only so much space.
Triple G's jumped in. And sorry, I'm late. Can you start again? Yeah, no problem. It's 2 hours 20 minutes in, but we could just pick up.
Start.
Yeah. So here's my haul. Anyway, you missed a really good presentation too, Pete. So make sure you watch the rewind.
But I do agree. So with space, like I've been a gaming fan all my life. You know, I bought my first computer, like my Sega Mega Drive, when I was 4. So I've always had physical media. I still own a lot of physical media. I've got like my Mega Drive and N64 and SNES collection in the loft.
Yeah.
But I've now officially made that leap to digital. I don't buy PS5 games anymore, physical ones. I literally buy digitals. And it was a struggle to get there, you know. And there it is. See, I've still got my original Sonic the Hedgehog.
See, I think it really depends on the experience on the system. I think definitely on Xbox and PlayStation now, if you can buy games that are like on a sale or whatever, and then get them digital, you can save so much space. And because you don't then need the disc spinning up making noise, the actual experience playing the game is better as well. With the Switch being cartridges, it doesn't make any noise to be a cartridge. I still think it's good to be able to resell the game if you don't want it. But the other two systems being discs, the disc drive is only useful for a Blu-ray drive, as far as I'm concerned, not really for a game.
I'm trying to pawn off my gaming collection too, and I think I'm going the same way when it comes to the PS5.
We've got the Xbox Gold that just gives us all the monthly games and do it that way.
That's what I'm doing with is it the PlayStation? What's it called now for the PS?
Just PSN or something. There's
like 3 tiers. I have like the lowest tier, so like a few different games a month. But I'm thinking about going up to the higher tier and getting more games essentially you can play. But when it comes to gaming, I'm going to just go with digital because it's just, you're right, you're not buying, like the disc doesn't do anything. We've talked about it before actually, it's just a download code essentially.
Yeah. It's just a hindrance because it makes makes a noise you don't want it to make.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was like the Switch cart, it wouldn't be so bad, but it's spinning up making noises.
And I think that's what we had said actually in one of the streams before. Like if you could still buy the case with the artwork, but have a card in it with the digital code to buy the game, that'll be okay too.
Getting a gift physically is still nice.
Yeah. But again, we're at this point now where you can't have everything. So you said you've moved on your game and stuff, your comics. At what point are you going to move your comics out for your 3D printers?
Well, that's the thing. Like it always kind of moves around. So I was, and I think partly of why I was so interested in the 3D printer kind of side of things is kind of a bit twofold. One, that I literally grew up being hands-on for everything. So all my schooling and stuff, I loved all the crafting classes. I designed things. My bedside cabinet that I use to this day, I built in 4th year of school. Like there's lots of things that like I like doing that kind of stuff with. And I started buying figures and they were getting expensive. I mean, like even on sale, my Red Hood figure was over £400. Like that statue, that's not cheap.
I would love to have that sort of thing. I'd love to have those statues, but that's one thing I can't let myself get into.
And I've only been able to justify it by selling the previous ones. So I sold a previous Red Hood figure for like 150 or so, and again, it kind of pays in towards various kind of things. So this has been built up money over time, kind of the same as like comic books. I sell comics and buy nicer editions of comics. Like I'm not paying the £100 for an absolute edition first time. I'm selling the smaller editions to pay towards that. But even then, like, it's a lot of money on a shelf, and it's a lot of figures and stuff that some of them I absolutely love. I mean, the Starfire, the Nightwing, the Wonder Woman, and the Red Hood are absolutely amazing. The Supergirl one is, it's okay. The 2 Birds of Prey ones are nice, but not like the best in the world. Like I've got Black Canadian Huntress, and it's a few other kind of bits and pieces. But I would quite happily skim some of the smaller ones down, get £200-300 back into, being able to spend on other things, and then have that space to display some of my my various bits of plastic that I'm going to be printing. Because as I say, I'm trying to turn this model to work for this guy.
Oh, nice.
That looks cool.
So I'm kind of playing around in CAD stuff just now.
Peter is asking you sent him some info on 3D printing. I'm talking about spending a lot of money on figures and statues. Pete's a guy who's led me down a dark path. I made my first pre-order for a 1/6 scale statue or figure. It was the Lord of the Rings Aragorn, which is out there this year. And unlike saving, like building money up, I've done it I pre-ordered, paid the deposit. I'm hoping to build up the funds. So come November, December, whenever it's arriving, I'll have the funds there to pay for it without feeling guilty. But it's a dangerous path. But Pete, comics, figures, statues, and now he wants to do 3D printers.
I mean, it gets more and more expensive. The more, I mean, especially with all the various taxes and stuff kind of going up just now. I mean, I was looking at, there was like an Iron Studios Winter Soldier that they're doing, and it's like,
Yes, seen that.
It's like an 8th scale or something. It's not quite like the size of the normal kind of figures that you get, but it's like £200, give or take. You can get it a little bit cheaper, maybe about 170 or so. But I really want it because he's got the silver arm.
I love the soldier.
It's like part of the Infinity War collection or something ones, and it's the only one where he's got the silver arm and cap shield, and I want it, but it's £200. So again, I can only justify that if I sell something else.
Does anyone want to buy a Buffy Library Edition today? Because Highland G wants to buy.
I've got a couple of Birds of Prey figures.
Yeah.
So.
See, I would love that Winter Soldier statue.
This is where the 3D printing brings a lot of that cost down for like the crazy accessory stuff. So like for say like Pete buys a figure and you'd have to buy like a gun pack and a stand and so on and so forth. I could just print all that stuff.
Yep.
So that saves me a lot of money that way. So like what I've been working on right now, and I've not actually shown anything because it was a little bit too small, is I'm trying to print a full-size throne from our Lord Draken so that you can sit on the shelf on a throne.
Cool. Folks, I'm actually thinking we're approaching the 2.5 hour mark. If anyone knows, we always hang about after the show for another 2 hours and just talk all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to have an open invite. If you want to come backstage, not live, just chat to us after. Send me a link or send me a message on Instagram. I'll send you a link across. But we usually continue this conversation again for a couple of hours after the live show. But we're kind of drifting into the kind of figures and game and stuff. So
yeah, I did have one book I wanted to mention before we kind of we are wrapping things up a little bit.
Yeah.
This is one that I picked up and I think I actually got it like second hand, and it was like in the back of one of my comic shops. It's not someone that I'd heard of before. It's a creator called Daniel Reed, and I believe he's the writer and creator. And this book's called Grubby Little Smudges. It's kind of square, kind of like your a lot of these kind of like Archaea type things are a little bit kind of more squared off kind of books, and it's about this little guy who just looks like this weird little kind of porcelain looking kind of like little thing, and he's imprisoned, and he basically, as disgusting as this might sound, picks his nose to create art and creates this kind of like sculpture thing on a door. So I'm going to try and see if I can show you the art page a bit better. That's the sculpture thing he creates on the door. And the story kind of goes from there, that people figure out that this art exists. They come and see it in this little kind of prison, and then the various kind of lords and things of the kind of time try and kind of capture him or get him to kind of create art. And there's a little bit of a kind of twist in the story for him as to like what's more important, him being imprisoned or him being able to show off his art. And it's just a really interesting, fun kind of black and white graphic novel is one thing. And it's very small kind of brush stroke kind of drawn, but it adds a lot of detail and texture to the way that things are kind of drawn. I think it was released as singles because he's got like 4 or 5 different covers on the back of this. But yeah, just a fun little interesting kind of book. And as I said, not something I would have picked up had I seen it at like full price. I think it's got £14-15 on the back of here, but I think I got it for like a £5 or something.
Who's the publisher again? Sorry, who did you say was the publisher?
I don't know if it says the publisher on.
It's just a very like you said, it's a very unusual.
Yeah,
site.
it just says Grubby Little Smudges of Filth by Daniel Reed, SLG Publishing.
Okay.
But as I said, it looks like a lot of these kind of like mouse guard style kind of like the smaller kind of little square books. I think I picked up a book recently in my haul. It was like called like something Little Stories or something like that. It's a similar kind of format to that as well, and the teddy bear kind of looking one. But yeah, it's to say, like I just randomly sometimes look at the back of a comic book shop. They've got little kind of like reduced sections and stuff like that, and just kind of pick up little things that stand out. And at first I was like, they can't possibly be talking about him drawing with these bogies. But actually, like as the story goes on, it's really interesting. It's quite heartfelt. So yeah, a weird one, but again, an interesting one to check out.
SLGs, it's on slave labor graphics.
Slave labor graphics, yeah, exactly.
Nice. So I was wondering, was it more like a European style?
So it's not larger. It's the same. Like if I, sorry, my hands are not really the best to kind of hold things up. But it's like,
Yeah.
you know, actually slightly wider and slightly smaller than like a single issue. So you get about the same amount of page real estate, but it's square basically.
Martin, do you have any recent reads you want to talk about? You've got 9 seconds.
I've been reading a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 lately. So I've been reading one of the ones I read recently, which I posted, was Trauma Team, which I absolutely loved.
Is that comic more based on the anime or more based on the game?
It's neither. Based in the world.
Okay.
The anime is set a year before the game. The game is set in its own story, but then you've got the comics that are set in the city of Night City, but separate stories.
And you follow different characters and
different characters completely for every single.
I just wonder because the anime piqued my interest recently, and I have played through the game. Despite its faults, my PC ran it okay. So I'm intrigued to check out the anime.
Love the anime. I'm playing through the game again as we speak. I can't get away from it, and I'm now playing through the books. So Trauma Team and I can't remember the name of the other one, but Trauma Team was one I really enjoyed because it's about a member of the Trauma Team that with a previous team everyone was killed due to someone, obviously this cybernetic person killed them. I'm trying to sort of, if you don't know the terminology, if you've not played the game, it's hard to explain. But someone that went sort of psychosis on them, killed the rest of the team but her. It's her going back in with another trauma team, and the person that the trauma team has to save is the person that killed her previous team.
Okay.
So she has to sort of, it's a decision of putting her emotions against what her job is. So you get that fight all the way through the book. And you also, it's such a good read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And
I love RPG type games. I love like almost writing my own story into stuff. So like when I was playing the game through, I kind of set two rules, and they were not set at the start of the game. I usually choose it as I kind of go through the game. So the first thing was that she got asked to have like a drink or a smoke or something early on in the game and started choking. I didn't know at this point like what cybernetic things my character had or didn't have, and she started choking. And I was like, right, okay, my character is not smoking or drinking for the rest of the game. So for the rest of the game, whenever anyone asked, I just said no, and they always found it weird because I was just like, no, I don't want that. Because I was like, no, my character doesn't drink or smoke because it doesn't work for my character. And the second thing I did was at one point somebody who was supposed to help me had put me into like a machine or something, and when I'm waking up, I could hear them talking as if they were going to backstab me or kill me. So I woke up, grabbed my gun, shot them, blew up the whole place, took them all out. Even though they didn't kill me because they talked about trying to take me down. So then I set the rule again: if anyone tries to backstab me, they die. And that was my 2 rules throughout the game: no smoking and drinking, and any backstabbers die. And it made the game so fun.
If anybody wants to read any of the cyberpunk stuff, if you've not got the time or patience to play through the game to get experience the universe, the anime is a good segue into it. Which I do feel you need a little bit of knowledge before you read the books. You need to either play the game or play the anime, or watch the anime. The anime,
especially knowing like how they connect to the world and how they can kind of put certain elements and stuff. It's nice to know.
The anime is on my watch list.
And I did harass Dark Horse a little bit after I read Trauma Team, and I asked them for a library edition, and all they responded to me was watch the new releases.
Watch
they
the
have
space.
announced.
Yeah.
They have announced coming out in October, the library edition volume 1 with Trauma Team in it.
And is it an ongoing thing where there'll be more?
It's a volume 1. So yes, I'm so happy I can get it in library edition eventually. But yeah, for anyone that's interested in your sort of, your cyberpunk type world, cyber enhancements, drink, drugs, that sort of stuff, that sort of, that's the sort of world it is. Give it a try.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily into the cyber stuff all the time, but I do like separate worlds in a story that you can just kind of follow that story. So I love things like like Transmetropolitan or Low or anything that's like it's in its own little kind of universe of what it wants to kind of do.
Well, I think if you've enjoyed the game or you've enjoyed the anime and you like the world, the setting, I think you'll enjoy the books.
Yeah.
How is the art? Is it like neon, or are we talking like toned down?
I can show you before we end up. I can show you.
I think the trade paperback might have been out this week or next, but you might as well just wait till the library edition.
I've got it on digital.
Yeah, I'll probably just wait for the library because libraries are good price. They're like 30 quid or so normally.
Yeah. That's good.
This is to say this Trauma
that's
team.
nice.
It's very Phil. You'd like all the.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like almost like Dan Moore's art, a little bit almost like the way the faces were and the pages.
This is probably one of the. It says a bit gory. This you trigger. Try and stay away from some of the trigger warning pages, but you can. It's very. Nice. This is one of the nicer books, and I think
it's a little bit more curved than Dan Moore's stuff's a little bit more like straight liney.
Yeah.
The other one is You Have My Word, which is, and they're only 4-issue runs.
Yeah.
So they're quick reads, but let's say every single book has got its own characters that lead the way in Night City, and I think one of them I'm a bit funny with, but
that library edition, that's something I'm going to eye up then for October. Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, I might try and nab that. Yep. But folks, that I'll just end this stream here. Thanks for everyone who's joined us live in the chat. Thanks for everyone who's been involved. It's good having you on. We do this. I do it for myself, to be honest. I like to have a chat and nosy about what people have been buying and reading and what's come out and so forth. Thank you to Scott for producing that wonderful presentation, which I will hopefully learn how to edit. So each month, whenever we have people on, they can take their picks and I can put it on. So thanks, Scott, for that. Coming up in the Nerd Herd this week, this coming Wednesday live is Daveocracy, and that was Scott's pick. So that's the third and final volume of the Dave saga. So if you haven't read Dave and Dave 2, like Martin here, read them, and obviously the third one before Wednesday's show, and let us know what you thought about it. Highland G had a haul last week, you'd said. I take it there's nothing coming at the minute with your...
Nothing currently, because as I said, I can't lift anything significantly. So if I want to like hold a book up to spread it out or something, that's not really going to work, and I don't want to put out lesser content. So it might be a little while, but I'll try and still take part in like live streams and stuff. So I'm still kind of around. Yeah, excellent. So thanks everyone for joining us. That is what all the Omnifuss is about, and we will see you again at the end of March, which I think is the 31st. I believe is the last Friday in March. Let me just double check. It is. So 31st of March. We'll see you then. Take care. See you next time. Bye.